Hello, everyone, and welcome to Geeky Geezers. I'm your host, Agent Boomer. This is my co-host, PaPa Pacelli.
Hello, hello.
And hello, hi everybody. What you sipping on?
I'm just having some diet soda because it is a holiday weekend, but I indulged 2 nights in a row, and I think I'll take it easy. Even though honestly, I think I've done pretty well this week. Either I'm building up an alcohol tolerance or I'm pacing myself better.
Cool. So if you hear booms in the background, by the way, chat, it is neighbors setting off fireworks tonight.
Same here. Yeah, exactly. Oh,
Okay.
we had one go off. I after the rewatch last night. I didn't immediately go to bed because I had to do my homework for tonight and get the notes done. But besides that, I uh, stopped over at Jedi Bill's stream for a little while, and although I didn't actually do any singing, I encouraged the people that were. And it was almost like 2:30 in the morning when I was getting ready for bed when there was this big boom outside, and Netter's like, why are people setting off fireworks at this hour? I said, because, we're surrounded by idiots. I said, luckily, we haven't even gotten to bed yet. Otherwise, we would have been woken up.
Oh, I'm sipping on it. By the way, I'm sipping on a Calypso Taste of the Islands Southern Peach Lemonade.
Well, that sounds very summery.
I really that sounds very what?
Summery?
Summery. Yes, well that's what it says on the label.
Okay, I realize how you can misunderstand what I was saying. I was kind of inventing a word, turning
Okay,
summer into
fine.
an adjective. I didn't mean
Fine.
summary like to give an abbreviated synopsis.
Listen, it advertised real lemon bits, so they have a little container of lemon bits that they add to the artificial lemon flavored drink. I'm kidding. I don't know.
Actually, I was going to say that's a brilliant marketing idea. I don't know if I'd like it or not, but it's something new. I give kudos to anyone that does something new these days, for crying out loud.
Yes, well, they're like my Snapple substitute ever since Snapple went to plastic bottles. Not
I
doing
don't
that.
blame you. I don't blame you. So I'm assuming then that this drink that you're drinking tonight came in a glass bottle.
Yes, I like a nice, good old fashioned glass bottle. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say hi to the chat.
Netter's first, and she's got that special heart just for you.
Thank you. Hi, sweetie. Hi, Nanette.
I think
As
that's
I
like
would always say.
a heart exclamation point.
That's good.
That's what that is.
First, and she was first.
And she was first.
It was a late
And
post
I love
thing,
you too,
but
Netter.
hello, Al. Have a great weekend. Great show years.
Show geezers. Yep,
Sure,
absolutely.
sure thing, Al. Hail, Agent Boomer, Netters Network, Troy Pacelli, and the chat. Thank you.
Stephen Otten was
there.
Stephen Otten was there last night doing some singing. And if you're still here, Stephen, not only were Netter and I saying, you got some great songs. They were all songs we'd never heard of before. You've definitely got an awesome, eclectic palette for music, and that definitely brings some diversity to the playlist, so to speak. Good job last night. Oh, and for everyone else, I'm talking about Jedi Bill's karaoke stream last night.
Oh,
after the rewatch on Big Al's channel of Gone with the Wind.
You had a busy night.
It was a busy night. Yeah.
Daniel Heron, greetings. Thank you, Daniel. Cloud Sailing, welcome. Glad to see you. And
we got Joshua V.
Was he here?
Finally saw Lightyear this weekend. I would only ask why.
Here's what I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you get dragged to things, and I know, you got to put your foot down. But if you're going to be the one wet blank, like let's say you're with family, and it's like, oh, Junior really wants to see Lightyear Replenish, and you're going to come along, right? Heard it wasn't that good. The critics said, oh, you can't make your own decisions. It's like, it can happen. Trust me. The first Transformers movies, I had cousins in town, and I'm like, Michael Bay Transformers, and I was like, and I'm sorry, oddly enough, for I was at the right age for Transformers. I was a kid. I never got them. I'm not picking on people who like them because we all like different things, but they never grabbed me. So I was never even a Transformers fan as a kid. And I'm being dragged to this Michael Bay monstrosity.
Oh, God.
With the Shia
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 LaBeouf,
LaBeouf. Yeah, he was in those. Yeah, and that other anyway, you know me and names.
Yeah, the girl with
Megan
the weird
Fox.
thumb. Yeah,
Megan
exactly.
Fox. She has a weird thumb.
Yeah, she's got just these weird stumpy thumbs, and usually when she like has a photo taken or whatever, she poses in such a way that you can't see her thumbs.
Interesting. Okay.
It's one of those things that she's really really beautiful, but once you see those thumbs, that's all you see.
Yeah. I guess sort of like someone who might have a glass eye. You look at the glass eye then, right? But yeah.
You just suddenly made me think of Sandy Duncan.
I was thinking of somebody else, but that's okay. Cloud sailing, deleted scenes. Okay, I think I've said everybody. If I missed anybody, I apologize, but I'll try and keep up with the chat. Let's get right into it. We're gonna get to it. That's what you want to do. You just want to get to it, right?
Yeah, let's just get
Mulholland
to
Drive. We're not talking about Mulholland Drive though.
I mean, we could. I'd be totally fine with that, but
we will do that sometime, actually. But we're going to talk about tonight. Maybe in some ways the not so good old days. I'm thinking back to the Disney flop year when Disney had its
a
two
Disney
big
flop
flops.
year. I think it was an unfair flop year, and we'll get
Fair
into
enough.
why I think that.
This was the year that the Black Cauldron and
Return to
Oz, and they were touting these like this was going to be a return to form. This was Disney coming back, and I think that was in 1985. Let me just double check that data. Return to Oz.
June 21st of 85 was Return to Oz. I mean, what I gotta say is, you just said it right there. That was already a marketing misstep. This idea of return to form. I guess we got to back up almost, right? Because Disney was really going through a bad slump at the time. They had a string of films, animated features that didn't do very well.
Yeah, I mean, they had I think was the one prior, Fox and the Hound. I think
Fox and the Hound didn't do very well. Wasn't there a Rescuers movie?
Rescuers in the late 70s, I think. Yeah.
Okay, that didn't do very well. And if you look, even wasn't even 101 Dalmatians not doing too well.
Well, no, that was from I think that was from Walt was still alive. I think maybe you're thinking of the Aristocats.
Oh, right, the Aristocats. Right. That's what it was. And what the problem there was, and if you look back at it, the animation had stagnated. They were getting really lazy. There's a lot of videos on YouTube about how Disney, especially during this period, would take and reuse some of their own animation. So like, I'm trying to remember when they did, for example, Robin Hood. There's the dancing that Maid Marian is doing with, the forest animals or whatever. And it was literally just motion captured, tracing from, I think it was Sleeping Beauty?
I think it was Snow White. Snow White.
Maybe it was Snow White.
Maybe. Yeah.
And it was very, very common in this era. Very, very lazy. Very, very. And, for all the nostalgia that we have today about that old fashioned 2D cell by cell animation, they were phoning it in, doing that back then. You compare it to Snow White, which was beautiful and vibrant and, clean. Any comic book artist will tell you, yeah, those clean edges, on the line work and so forth, and crisp. You look at like Robin Hood and it's got those sketchy edges, little
rough around the edges. That sort of started with the Jungle Book, I think, right?
Yeah, a bit with the Jungle Book, and it just got worse. And so Disney was going through a real slump. And so it was early 80s. They realized, we got to start kicking it into high gear.
Which we talk about first. Return to Oz, that came out first. That was a live action movie, not an animated movie, but it was I guess we want to consider it a sort of a follow-up to the original movie, but not exactly.
Given the what I just said about it, this is a great example of them thinking, okay, we need to change up what we're doing, right? So we're known for animation. In the past, we've done live action, and we've done live action with animation. Now it's time to get with the times, start being innovators again. And I'm going to come back to that point. Disney being innovators, right? And doing a live action film with great practical effects and kind of pushing what they could do in movies again, right? So that's a plus. That's a thumbs up from me. That's heading in the right direction. But then you just said something else, Boomer, that kind of throws the marketing off a little bit on this. Because yes, I do think they played into this is like a sequel to The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
And it's kind of a bait and switch, because first, that's not what it is at all. If for no other reason that the original Wizard of Oz was MGM, right?
Yes.
MGM. And this is Disney, so it's two different companies. You can't do a sequel to someone else's movie, right? And secondly, when you actually see the film, you realize that tonally and just some continuity things do not line up with it to be a sequel to that movie. It is technically a sequel to the story if you are assuming the original Frank Baum books, right? It was The Wizard of Oz, and then, this Return to Oz, and the characters and stuff. But that's not how they build it, and that's not how fans interpreted it when they saw that. They felt that they'd been had. So it's not a good way to market it. I see what they were trying to do, but I don't think they pulled it off right.
Now, I was a child in '85. I think I was around 8 years old when these movies came out. So I guess I was the right age group for this in some ways. I didn't see Return to Oz in theaters. I did see it when it came to the Disney Channel. What did you see it back in the day, or did you catch it later? I'm just curious.
I probably caught it in between. I did not see it in the wait a minute. Did I see it in the theaters? No, I don't think I saw it in the theaters. And I didn't have the Disney Channel to begin with. This originally was airing on one of the premium cable channels first. I think it was like HBO or Showtime.
Maybe they threw it on HBO. Yeah, that's true.
And that's where it was before it went to the Disney Channel.
That even happens today. I noticed that HBO got that West Side Story remake, and I think Disney Plus got it around the same time because there was like a license thing or something.
Probably,
so they both got it. Yeah.
And that probably has more to do with specifically West Side Story and the rights issues on that. And we can, that's another story.
Topic,
but yeah, that's how I saw it. And, this was one of those ones that it was just borderline for whether or not it was appropriate for my brother, because it was a little bit darker. There are some scary elements.
Yeah.
So he'd want to watch it. So we'd let him watch it, but I pretty much had to be there with him when he did. I didn't really have an issue with that because I kind of enjoyed it. I was a teenager at the time, so I really got what was happening here. All these things that I'm saying right now in the analysis, I intuitively understood then. I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing. It's a sequel, but it's not really a sequel,
Yeah, meaning you know that this character Dorothy met with the Scarecrow and the Cowardly Lion and the Tin Man and I guess went up against the Wicked Witch of the West.
It's as much a sequel as like I would say what would I say? Like
Incredible Hulk is to the original Hulk movie, maybe. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
You could see
they're
how
not going through the origin. We're assuming, or even the Spider-Man, the first, and not Andrew Garfield, the other kid, the one that's doing
Tobey Maguire. Yeah, what's his name? Tom Holland. Yeah, the first Tom Holland movie. You could think of it, or we've talked about this, you could think of it as a sequel to like the Tobey Maguire, because it's basically, he's already been Spider-Man for a while. He may have had all those adventures. You already know his origin. We're just picking it up and going. Except he's still in high school. And
same thing here, right?
Dorothy seemed much older in the original Wizard of Oz movie, and here she's a child again.
Exactly.
Bruza Balk actually played her, which I thought is interesting. She here's what I remembered, because oddly enough, I have not actually watched this movie since I was a kid, though I did watch it repeatedly. I remember that Dorothy ends up having to get sent to an asylum for observation. Is that correct? I think that happened, some sort of mental institution.
Yes, exactly.
And I noticed that the guy running it was obsessed with electric gizmos, because I guess this was the age of electricity is just coming on the market. Electricity just
Electroshock
coming.
therapy, exactly.
Electroshock therapy, Thomas Edison, of course, and of course the age of invention. So this guy was obsessed with all these contraptions at this place. I know that she ends up, I don't know if there's another tornado or storm, she ends up back in Oz. I noticed that there's another, I think it's an evil queen or evil witch who has heads that she puts on herself. She removes her head and puts a new head on.
Yeah, which is a bit scary for the younger viewers. Sure.
I remember there was, I think, her chickens with her this time instead of the dog. Was Toto with her this time, or was it just a chicken? And the chicken could talk to her in Oz, like she could actually talk to the chicken.
Yeah,
Oz,
I
thought
honestly
was odd.
am having a hard time remembering the details. But
I noticed there was a mechanical wind-up man, which was pretty cool. I liked him.
What they were trying to do, though, is they were trying to play with the concept of, is this real? Has she really gone to another place? Or just like the original, it implied that it was all a dream, it wasn't real. That's certainly how her family and friends interpreted it. And I guess one would assume that a child would say, no, it was absolutely real. And then as an adult looking back, you'd go, yeah, that was a dream, but now they're taking it to the next extreme. Now she, is it real, or is it a complete delusion of a deranged mind, right? Which is kind of a highbrow concept for a kid's film,
I mean, there were some great effects in it, like the Gnome King. I think who was made out of rocks or something. We see,
and that was the other thing that I was going to say about this. The effects, the practical effects were brilliant. They were very cutting edge in those live action special effects, and I'm going to say even the sound engineering. I don't think the sound engineers get enough credit. The voice acting was great, but the engineering of the sound of that voice of that rock creature that sounded like gravel grinding, and bricks knocking together. It was like, man, that's really good, but that does amp up the intensity, and it does kind of make you, if you're a younger kid.
What were I'm more familiar with the controversies surrounding Black Cauldron. We'll get to that in a minute. What were people saying, critics and even just people saying about Return to Oz when it was out? Were they saying this movie's too scary for kids?
I don't remember, because I didn't really follow the critics back then, but I do know that a lot of parents, and this is just anecdotal, this is not, like what was happening nationwide or anything, but I can say anecdotally that it was my impression that they felt it was a bit intense for kids. And even my mom, like I said, my mom making me sit with my brother when he would watch it, she was acknowledging that too. She's like, yeah, this doesn't strike me as, and she tried watching it a time or two, and she's like, yeah, this does not seem like a real sequel. I said, it's not, it's two different companies, she's like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing there.
So I don't know, though. I should revisit Return to Oz someday. We do a rewatch of it, because I am curious.
Well, yeah,
how it holds up.
It would be a lot of fun. They also drew some other inspirations from the original, in that you remember that Elmira Gulch and the Wicked Witch, played by the same actress, and that was intentional. And the three farm hands and the Tin Man, Scarecrow, and Cowardly Lion, same actors. There's a reason for that. The sideshow guy, that sends her back home, and the Wizard of Oz, who
same guy, same actor,
same actor, and that was thematically intentional, in a way that they used to do this a lot in live theater,
like Peter Pan.
I was just going to say, Peter Pan, where the same actor would play the father and Captain Hook. and that you're supposed to, as an audience, draw parallels there. Well, Return to Oz did the same thing because the same actress that played Mombi played Nurse Wilson, and the same actor that played the Gnome King played Dr. Worley. Or, I mean, so you'd meet them, you'd see them in their antagonistic roles in real life, and then sure enough, they'd be the antagonist in
the
Oz.
fantasy world. Yeah.
Right.
So,
and there's a little girl at the hospital that she meets who also, the same actress plays Princess Ozma. So, they were doing the same thing, taking the same inspirations, again, capitalizing on the implication that this is a sequel to that MGM Oz, but it's too different to work,
And it wasn't a musical either, so that there's also that.
That's true. That is kind of missing something. So,
but I don't know. Like I said, maybe I should give it a rewatch sometime. I'm telling you though, this was the era of scaring kids with children's movies. And the other one they released that year, this one got into a lot of trouble too. That was The Black Cauldron.
Yeah. Which I think we did a rewatch on Netter's channel recently, didn't we?
Yes. Yeah. I wasn't able to make it for that one, but Birdman and I did a rewatch of that. You can hear me ramble on about it.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Mm-hmm.
But I remember I did see that in the theater when it came out. My mom did take me to see The Black Cauldron. I remember I got some kind of sticker set. I don't know if I got that from a store or something else. This was a big deal animated movie at the time. This was shot 70 millimeter. Most movies are not shot 70 millimeter. And the only other animated feature that I know that was shot in 70 millimeter was Walt Disney's Sleeping Beauty back in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a very big deal. It was years in the making. Frankly, it was one of these movies that was stuck in development hell, though, right? Because this was, I think Don Bluth might have worked on it at some point. I think Tim Burton worked on it at some point. It was just,
and you can totally, when you watch it, you definitely see the Don Bluth elements there, and you also see why Don Bluth didn't want to work with Disney anymore.
Yeah.
Because again, this was not marketed very well. I have a very hard time saying that it wasn't appropriate for them to make this film, but the implication that this was for little kids, the same kids that would have gone to see Snow White and Sleeping Beauty. Yeah, no, it's not. And if you took your kids there thinking that's what you were going to be seeing, you'd be pretty darn offended by that. But for an older audience, yeah, definitely good. I feel like this was one of those ones that not only was it marketed poorly, but the tepid response that Disney got taught them all in totally the wrong message. It said, okay, people don't like this. Don't ever do this again. Let's hide this. And no, that's not the case. There are people that love this film, but it's a more niche audience, a skewing older audience. If you were trying to bring back the families and the kids, that was a bad choice. But there's nothing inherently wrong with this film.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember when as a kid seeing it, I liked it well enough. I've liked it more over the years, mainly because I think its reputation is undeserved. Keep in mind that this movie did not get a VHS release until the late 90s. This came out in 85.
And even then, wasn't it like re-edited?
Well, I hate to tell you this, the actual theatrical feature was re-edited. Okay. Michael Eisner cut out some scenes from the Cauldron Born rising up out of the. Here's the scene that was cut. Eisner cut the scene. I think a Cauldron Born touches one of the Horn King's henchmen and like kills him instantly, and that was taken out. Eisner edited it out. Like that's usually unheard of for an animated movie to be edited because the editing happens before the animation process starts. I mean, if we're going to cut this, it's because they do animatics and storyboards before they go to trouble animating it. They're going to cut something. Like there's a famous couple scenes from Atlantis, The Lost Empire that Disney made where they had to cut a couple scenes out of that, which was unfortunate because they would have been really neat scenes, but budget-wise and also for length, they had to cut those scenes. But
Matt Anui, by the way, Greetings, man, Nui, and thanks for stopping by the stream. Yeah, he brings up an excellent point that I think even I tend to overlook and forget because I don't think in these terms, but he's absolutely right when he says you think it fell victim to the animation is for children mentality. And at least partly what he's referring to is this idea that at least in the West, specifically in the United States, we tend to assume that if it's a cartoon, it's for kids.
Yes.
And that's not necessarily true all over the world. That's certainly not true in Japan.
Animations for all different age groups.
Yeah, animation is just another way of telling a story, and it could be, G-rated or it could be R-rated, depending. You got to pay attention to those things. Who is your target audience? Don't just assume because it's animation, it's for kids. And that's even been true here in the United States. I mean, when you think of Fritz the Cat or
Heavy Metal
or Rock and Rule.
Rock and Rule, yeah.
I mean, these were definitely not for kids. And although I don't think there's anything that's really not for kids, it's a little more intense. I'd say this is more a PG film than it is a G film.
This is based on Lloyd Alexander's The Chronicles of Prydain series. I don't know if you ever read those growing up. And
I think I read the first one. Yeah.
It takes place in the mythical land it's based on, I think, is ancient Wales. I think that's what it's based on.
And I think the confusing thing to me when I saw the film was that isn't it a combination of a couple of the books?
It is. Okay. They combine because the Black Cauldron was a separate book. Like the Horn King is the villain in the Book of Three, but he gets killed. And then there's a different bad guy in actually in some ways the villains in Black Cauldron were scarier than the Horn King, actually, but you'll have to read those books to find out. I do recommend them. But the whole thing though they kind of combined a couple of them. Frankly, how the Chronicles of Prydain should have been treated like Disney was how they did the Narnia books later when they did the Narnia adaptations, like take each book, make it its own movie, and do it as a live action series. Probably would have been a little better. I mean, these are children's books, but there are some things in there that are pretty creepy. Like there's a scene in the Book of Three where I guess Taran is watching what I guess what some pagan group is doing over hill, and they have people in wicker cages, and they set the wicker cages on fire, which apparently was a practice in ancient Wales.
It absolutely was.
So I mean, of course, the series is based on Welsh mythology, but
and that's totally where the whole Wicker Man thing comes from. This whole idea of keeping the ancient practices alive and so forth.
Yeah, and it's. Here's the problem though. I think it was maybe too intense for younger children, and I think the older children, like the preteens, they weren't necessarily interested in going to see a cartoon.
Yeah,
especially one that looks like an old-fashioned Disney movie, especially with characters like Gurgi, who was actually voiced by the actor who voiced Donald Duck. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
So you have kind of the cute element, but then you have the scary element, and it's like, who's the audience here? Like, what age group are you aiming this as?
And it's perfectly fine, even if it is, maybe you make it PG, right? And you just tell parents, some material might not be appropriate for the youngest, audience.
I think was it PG?
It might have been.
I think it was PG. That's another thing.
But you need to push that in the marketing. Does that help you sell tickets? No, but it does build your brand and trust in your brand. And that's valuable too. And I think that's something else that marketing teams tend to overlook. Also, Stephen Ransom brought up a point that none of his friends would see the Iron Giant because of that animation is for kids concept.
Yeah.
And that's kind of unfortunate because I think we can all agree that Iron Giant is a great story that's maybe a little intense for the youngest audiences, but definitely something that every age could enjoy. And that's kind of sad. I think it works the other way too. I think this idea that all animation is for kids works against adults. Because I think most adults, especially adults that have kids, know how much they enjoy going to see, a lot of these films that are clearly for kids, but there's some jokes in there that go over the kids' heads that are intended for the adults. And sometimes just stuff that, is fun for all ages. I think of the earlier Toy Stories and the Cars series and all that. And even after, our kids were grown and moved out, Netta and I still would go see like the Cars movies at
Yeah.
the drive-in and stuff because we knew that we'd just enjoy ourselves. I'm probably going to take her tomorrow to see The Rise of Gru, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a little while.
Yeah, there are some people who can't get over the whole animation is for kids things. I don't know if it's a generational thing or if it's
You hear that? She likes
what.
Gru.
Yeah, well, there you go. And I don't. I've always liked animation even as a kid. I funny enough, when I was growing up, I was watching a lot of the old Disney shorts on the Disney Channel more so than like He-Man or Transformers. That was more my thing. Was watching a lot of the old Warner Brothers cartoons. I watched a lot of those, and then a lot of those cartoons.
All the stuff that would get you canceled these days.
Oh well. To be fair, some of those old Disney cartoons would be problematic now, but the Warner Brothers.
Well, yeah, but Disney is real quick to throw them into the vault and hide them, or put warnings on them, or change them.
And Black Cauldron was another one that was in this vault for a while. They were embarrassed of this movie. It was available in Europe. I remember being taking some. I had a film professor who was able to get me a copy of a bootleg European VHS, and of course the quality was terrible, but I still was able to rewatch it. And then eventually Disney put out the Black Cauldron VHS in one of the worst VHS copies. I mean, one of the worst. You know how like Disney had bad tapes. I could tell Black Cauldron.
They definitely did. Yes,
on a bad VHS when I got it. They put
By
on
the
DVD.
way, Blue Wrenches, we're saying some things that Disney might not like, so watch for the bots.
Oh, whatever. We are going to say more things than they like. But my point is, and this goes into our first segment tonight, is that what was Disney had a marketing problem with these kids' movies. I don't think they understood what audience to send this to. For instance, Black Cauldron might have been better off. It was a beautifully animated movie. I'm not taking it away. It would have been live action, maybe geared more towards maybe like kids that liked Indiana Jones or Star Wars. That might have found its audience back then, whereas cartoon animated movies were still seen as kids' fare.
Yep, agreed.
And right now, right now, I'm starting to wonder if the people making some of their animated features know what the audience is as well, because
I would argue that now it's not a question of not knowing; it's a question of not caring.
Yeah, because I think you could argue when Disney. Those releases in the 80s, they were mistakes, but they weren't intentional. I think the intentions were good behind both those movies, and I still think they're interesting works to view now. But this is going to bring us to our first news story tonight, but I want to do a little bit of a flashback from a couple years ago, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This was back when Lightyear had that bad opening weekend. This is a Variety article, and here, I'll go ahead and repost the headline. Because we have some other news tonight about another animated feature on how it's doing at the box office. And I remember being very curious as to how it would do versus a big tentpole Disney Pixar animated feature that's part of a beloved franchise series. So let's go. This was from a couple weeks ago from Variety. Box office Lightyear opening weekend struggling to outpace Jurassic Park Dominion. And just going to read a couple paragraphs. Okay, there's certainly winning ways to look at the Lightyear opening, as its projected haul would easily mark the highest debut for an animated movie since the onset of the pandemic in North America. Family audiences have been somewhat skittish to return to the big screen as multiplexes have reopened, which had led Disney to rethink its release strategy, opting out of theatrical runs for Pixar's most recent 3 animated features, Soul, Luca, and Turning Red, and instead debuting them directly on the company's streamer Disney Plus to bolster subscriptions. After spending more than 2 years away from theaters, a $52 million opening would show that Pixar still has a place on the big screen. However, it's not difficult to imagine that Disney was looking to make a bigger splash with Lightyear. The film may not even net half of the $120.9 million opening of 2019's Toy Story 4, even though the sci-fi film is a spin-off of Pixar's crown jewel franchise. That's from a couple weeks ago. And here's a box office story from this 4th of July weekend. And keep in mind, the weekend is not over since they get another Monday tacked on to that as well for 4th of July. So I'm sure families are continuing to going to the movies today and possibly tomorrow as well. So let's go ahead and post this article. This is Minions. Rise of Gru. Now, I know you're more familiar with the series than I am, I believe, right? But
I literally have all of them in DVD format sitting on my shelf. Now, admittedly, that's because Nanette's such a big fan, but regardless.
I know plenty of people that are. Yeah, Minions: Rise of Gru smashes July 4th box office records with 127.9 million opening. I'm not sure if, when this was taken, if that's worldwide. It's from the Hollywood Reporter. Okay, what a fireworks show! The long 4th of July weekend is turning into a box office extravaganza for Hollywood as Minions: The Rise of Gru heads for a huge 4-day opening of 127.9 million domestically, according to early estimates. Now, of course, this is estimates. I'm going to give you the actual totals so far in a minute. That includes 108.5 million for the 3 days. Number could shift in either direction when updated numbers are released on Monday. Overseas, the movie will cross 86 million by Sunday for a global booty of 200 million plus. Forget about breaking pandemic era records for a family title. The Illumination Universal movie will boast one of the top starts, excuse me, ever at the domestic box office for an animated Hollywood tentpole, not adjusted for inflation. Friday's haul alone was around 48 million from 44,400 theaters, including a hefty 10.8 million in previews. The movie's performance is significant in that it confirms that parents and younger kids are ready to return to the multiplex in droves. Throughout the pandemic, animated films have been considered a challenge genre. Didn't help when Pixar and Disney's Toy Story spin-off Lightyear opened at a tepid 51 million last month, before falling off steeply in its sophomore outing. Until now, Paramount's Sonic the Hedgehog 2, a live-action computer-animated hybrid, held the record for the biggest opening of the pandemic for a PG family release with 72 million. Now, keep in mind, I think Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was released a few months ago, not even during the summer movie season. So I don't think that's bad at all for that. But anyway, this article makes me think, though, when do we stop making excuses? When does the media stop making excuses for Disney? Because it's all, the families aren't ready to return to theaters and 50 million is respectable.
Honestly,
this is the same audience, is it not?
I honestly think that what it's going to require, and I've heard, and I hate to get political, but I'm just drawing an analogy. Viva Fry on his channel has often said that the only way media and politicians learn anything is when you vote at the booth, when you vote with your dollars, and when you make them look like idiots on social media. And I think the same thing happens here. You're already seeing people voting with their dollars by what they are and are not going to see. And now what we need to do is shame the media on social media and say, hey, Variety, or hey, whatever, when they're talking, about Minions over the next week. Isn't this the same, isn't this in complete antithesis to what you were saying last week about Lightyear?
No,
where's the discrepancy here?
Yeah, we know what the discrepancy is.
Oh, we know, but we need to put it on media and hold their feet to the fire and say, look, you look foolish. You're saying stupid shit. You can't say this about Lightyear and then this about Minions. The two are incompatible.
Here's what's going on. Both movies, this is the 5th film in a, I guess, beloved animated series, and so is Lightyear, because Lightyear is technically the 5th Toy Story movie spinoff. But to be fair, Minions: Rise of Gru, in a way, Minions isn't that a spinoff series from the Despicable Me series, right? So
exactly,
it's kind of the same exact thing.
Kind of a prequel, right?
Yeah,
just like Lightyear is meant to be kind of a prequel to
Toy Story.
So there's still a great comparison there that puts an even finer edge on it. Now, Stephen Ransom is saying, in reference to, when are they going to, stop this? When they stop paying the media, they will stop making excuses. Well, in a way, that's kind of already happening too, right? Because we see it. We've been reporting on it, how CNN has the lowest numbers and all the mainstream media is really, really hurting. And most people are starting to get their media from alternate sources. I think a lot less people are getting their media from the regular mainstream media for geek news, and they're turning to YouTubers for it. Frankly, YouTubers like us. Although maybe the bigger channels.
Fifth, if you count the direct-to-video Buzz Lightyear movie from 2000. Oh, the animated one that actually had Tim Allen's voice in it, I believe.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'd actually forgotten about that. You're right, Jack.
Yeah, but
good point.
The point is that I believe this movie is the same target audience that would have gone to a Lightyear movie. And I think everybody was expecting this movie. Oh, this is probably going to do worse than Lightyear. It's now breaking records, I think, for this series. And it reminds me, I'm sorry, back in the day, and I'm not saying that this is right, but movies like Land Before Time and the Care Bears movie were outdoing anything Disney pointed out. And for some reason, Disney at that point, at least for their features, left a bad taste in people's and audiences' mouths. These movies are for families. They want to take the kids to a movie. They want to have a good time, and they won't have to worry about having awkward conversations in the car ride home.
And I would also, I would also say too that this kind of fly, and this is something I was alluding to earlier on when we were doing our good old days thing, where it flies in the face of conventional wisdom. Conventional wisdom says that subsequent sequels do less and less dollars than previous ones, and that's not always true, because it's not just about fans' reaction, tunnel vision, focusing on just that franchise and its fans. You've got to take into account the marketing, the market, what's going on in the world, what it's going up against the week it's released. All of these factors play into how successful a film is. And here's an example of all conventional wisdom says that this Minions film should, be lower in rank than its predecessors. But there's a lot of other market features going in that people are going, I tried to take my kid to Lightyear. I want to take my kid to Lightyear, and that's a no-go. Well, this seems relatively unoffensive. Let's take them to see that.
It's an animated feature for families.
And then it gets some good word of mouth. And I'm telling you, I'm betting this one has legs. I'm guessing that it's going to do so well this week, and it will still be doing well next week, just like we saw with Maverick, right? A lot of people went to see Maverick in its first week for whatever reason, for whatever their personal reasons were, but then they started to generate positive buzz, and it continued to do well the following week and the following week, and it still had legs, and it's still in theaters, and it's still doing well.
Let's look at the top 5 in the box office. We have Minions: Rise of Gru with 108.5 million, and that could go up by the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
We're not even through Sunday night yet, technically. Those numbers haven't even gathered. Top Gun: Maverick, 25.5 million just for this weekend. That movie had legs. Elvis, 19 million. I believe Elvis was number 1 last weekend at the box office. I could be wrong there. I wasn't paying attention.
I'm actually waiting for my mom to go see that and tell me if it's any good, worth seeing.
I've heard it is. It's long, though. That's what I've heard. Jurassic World Dominion, 15.7 million. And the
that one just makes me scratch my head. It's like the fact that people are still going to see that.
I don't know. It has,
but again, that's another one that there's more to it than just the quality of the film and how it ought to be doing based on the franchise.
And The Black Phone, which is a horror movie, which I wonder if it's doing well for a smaller budgeted horror movie. That looked kind of creepy. You know what I noticed about all 5 of these? I don't think any of these are Disney properties at all.
None of them are Disney properties, and not a single one of them that you've mentioned have I heard anyone say, yeah, that's particularly woke. There's messaging in it. It's been cringy, eye rolling, nothing.
No,
it's just movies being put out to make a profit. Ironic, right? They focus on making a good film to make a profit, and what do they end up doing? They end up making a profit.
Yeah, or at least not preaching.
Shocker.
At least not preaching to the audience.
Yeah, this is where if this wasn't us talking, if this was us on social media, I'd insert the meme of Fry from Futurama. I'm shocked. Well, not that shocked.
Funny. Yeah, don't preach to the audience with your movies. That's what television is for. I'm kidding.
That's what our politicians are for.
Well, I was gonna say that's certainly what network television is for.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But we'll keep an eye on this. I guess Disney's next big release will be next weekend with Thor: Love and Thunder, right? So we'll see. It's a big Marvel tentpole movie, right?
Oh, we'll see.
We'll see how it does at the box office. I mean,
honestly, I hope it bombs too. I hope they start getting the message.
I
really
don't know that it will, because Chris Hemsworth Thor might bring back, fond memories of better movies.
Fond
But
memories of Beer Gut, Big Lebowski.
I forgot. Yeah. Oh, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, that's what the fans are looking forward to, I'm sure.
All right. Johnny Depp, USD 301 million Disney deal revealed? Question mark, exclamation point. Yeah, read a bit from this.
So we should, before we go into this, we should probably set the stage that those of you that were following the videos that I did talking about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, or if not me, maybe you were following Legal Bites or Ricada Law or one of those other, even Tug and Yellow Flash talking about the trial. There was a point where Amber Heard's attorney, Rottenborn, was questioning Johnny about a statement Johnny had made, the kind of thing that, any reasonable person knows. It was something that was said in frustration and was hyperbolic and, may or may not have been meant literally. Is it not true that you would not go back to Disney if they offered you $300 million and 1 million alpacas? And I think there's even more context to where the alpacas come in. And of course, people actually laughed in the courtroom, and Johnny chuckled and said, "It's true. I did say that." So that number, 300 million and 1 million alpacas, that's important to keep in mind as we go into this article.
Yes. Disney is desperate for Depp, according to an industry insider. The company is preparing a 301 US dollars, $301 million deal as a formal apology and a request for the beloved actor to return as Jack Sparrow in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Remember hearing about how Johnny Depp allegedly said he wouldn't do another Pirates film even for 300 million and 1 million alpacas.
Yeah, I think I heard that somewhere.
Yes. Well, although it may have just been a joke, Disney are willing to put their money where Depp's mouth is and offer him even more. According to a trusted source close to Disney, or this is a rumor, the Mouse House company is putting together a deal too good to turn down. Disney is very interested in patching up their relationship with Johnny Depp. They reached out to the actor prior to his defamation trial against Amber Heard and asked whether he would be interested in returning for another Pirates film or two. I know corporate sent him a gift basket with a very heartfelt letter, and I'm unsure how it was received, but what I can tell you is that the studio has already penned up a draft for a film about Jack Sparrow, so they are very hopeful that Johnny will forgive them and return as his iconic character, the insider alleged. According to the source, Disney is reportedly willing to go above and beyond the offer of $301 million, exceeding the amount Heard's lawyer claimed that Johnny Depp would refuse. During the defamation trial, Heard's attorney, Bredhoft, is that right?
Yes.
Asked, is Disney aware that Mr. Depp has testified under oath that he would not take another Pirates of the Caribbean franchise role for 300 million and 1 million alpacas? The whole courtroom laughed at the outlandish claims by the disgraced former small-town model claims, and even big-shot Disney executives were listening in. Disney are preparing a deal. Okay, well, we already read that. Okay. But,
so here's the funny thing, and this is why I said it, the exact word.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
the deal is reportedly for Johnny Depp to turn as Jack Sparrow on Pirates of the Caribbean 6 and a spin-off Disney Plus series about the early life of Captain of the Black Pearl.
Oh, interesting.
It's always
I can
about
see that because there's a lot of implied story there.
You know what you could do? You could have him doing a voice, have a younger actor playing him, and then have Johnny Depp doing the voiceover, introduce each episode as an older Jack Sparrow, right?
Did you say it was animated?
No, I didn't say it was animated, but I'm saying if they got another actor to play him, like a younger version of him, they can at least have him doing like an intro to each episode.
Here's my thought. And first, I did want to comment. So he says, I won't do it for 300 million or 1 million alpacas. And they are making an offer ostensibly for 301 million. So it's more than 300. And technically, if you consider each alpaca worth $1, that's exactly 300 million and a million, right? I think there's a little tongue-in-cheekedness there. By being literally more than 300, they're saying we're offering you more than that thing you said, right?
Give them a million toy alpacas.
Yeah, that actually would be really funny if they did that. I'm trying to think, is there a Disney character that was an alpaca?
Was this maybe in Zootopia? Maybe there was an alpaca.
Something. If there is, that would be perfect marketing. Start putting out a plushie of it, take 1 million of them, and send them to Johnny's house.
Oh, that'd be funny.
That would be genius. Now, here's what I mean, look, I don't know Johnny Depp. I don't know anybody who actually works for Disney. I have no inside information. This is just PaPa Pacelli, Joe Nobody, speculating here. But I would think if I was Johnny or advising Johnny, I'd say, okay, I'll come to the table. We'll talk about it. 301 million. Okay. But I want producer rights and I want marketing rights. Okay. Ooh. I want to receive some financial benefits from the use of my likeness, because that was another thing that isn't mentioned in this article, and I haven't seen it mentioned in any articles, but it did come up in the trial where he expressed chagrin, I suppose is how I'll put it, at the fact that Disney has no problem having his face on Jack Sparrow all over their parks, all over their merchandising. They're still selling his toys, even though they said they wouldn't use him anymore because of this. And again, one could argue it was posturing for the case. This is how I've lost money, and maybe casting some shade at Disney, but in terms of what his lawyers were doing to get him the compensation from Amber Heard that he felt, that he deserved. I've lost money because of this case and her accusations that she has no evidence of, and yeah, I think he'd be well within his rights to do that. But let's go back a little bit, Boomer. A couple may have been as much as 6 months ago. We were talking about speculations on Pirates of the Caribbean 6 when they were talking about a new character in Margot Robbie being a female kind of Jack Sparrow character. Yeah. And we said, do it, and you'll go broke doing it. And you noticed they never did do it. They knew it wasn't a good idea.
To be fair, if they bring Depp back, they could still have her in the movie as like a love interest or something else, right?
That could go well. That could backfire too, because Margot Robbie is now associated with the character of Harley Quinn, and they could see her as a Harley Quinn character to his Joker, which could go well. But
they could have her place. Then they could have her play something more dignified. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know. Or they could give her the Harley origin that Warner Brothers should have done, and have her start out as a dignified, character,
like Lady something or
Lady something, who, as she spends more time with Johnny Depp, goes through a character arc where she becomes more and more like Jack Sparrow. That would actually be very interesting, and I'd actually enjoy watching. Yeah.
Stephen Ransom says he should tell them no. See, he.
Well, but here's another reason.
He wants his career back and he wants the money, so
he does. And here's the other thing too. It's the closest thing he will get to an apology from Disney. If he signs this deal, and it's a deal that he's amicable to, and like I said, if he gets those production rights and stuff like that, that's a big win. That's Disney saying, yeah, we effed up and we need you. It's like they're going to him hat in hand, and him going and being magnanimous and going, Nomino Patre Spiritu Sanctu, I forgive you, go in peace, that's totally Johnny's brand too, being the bigger guy and forgiving, and it would go a long way. But that would be his vindication. He's gotten vindication after vindication. His win in court was a vindication. His winning in the court of public opinion has been a huge win, and ostensibly that's all he was after. But Disney making this offer, if Johnny acknowledges it by either accepting it or sweetening the deal a little bit, he wins big. That's a huge message he sends to Disney, all the fans, and really all of Hollywood. You better be right when you decide to turn your back on someone.
Yeah.
Don't back the wrong horse.
To be fair, though, at least, not that I'm trying to give Disney any props, and it probably isn't me giving them props, they just didn't get around to it. They haven't done anything with Pirates of the Caribbean since the last one with Depp. So
because they couldn't.
The general audience that doesn't follow the ins and outs, maybe they'll just not hold it against Disney, because
at this point, I would say there is nobody who isn't at least aware. It's been such a big deal that Joe Nobodies know about it.
Now, this isn't in my notes, but you did send me that article that Jack Sparrow is now back in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with Johnny himself, I don't think. It seems to be a unilateral decision on Disney's part, but Disney made the decision unilaterally to begin with to remove him from the rides, specifically because of optics.
For all I know, we talked about that on
we did
stream. Yeah,
we did.
So now he's back in the parks, back on the ride at least. So
this certainly is a negotiating tool that Johnny can and certainly would use, where he goes in and goes, okay, 300 million, there are 301 million, and spin-off series, and I want marketing rights, and I want publication rights, and I see you're using my likeness again in the parks. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Of course, because in certain areas you'll have one of the cast members dressed as Jack Sparrow.
I'm not saying, and sometimes he himself would show up at the parks dressed as Jack Sparrow.
Yeah,
and he did that of his own volition. So they've got something good here, and they know it. I'm not going to say Disney's over the barrel here, over the rum barrel, but they realize if they want to continue this at all, they can't do it without him. So if they don't come to an agreement with him, it's probably pretty much the end of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise.
They need hits. This doesn't make them look good if they're still making money off of Jep's likeness, and he's publicly saying that and they're publicly estranged, especially after he's been vindicated. They have to figure out a way to make this right. It's just good business for them. We'll see what happens. They are getting punished because they have to give them this big payout. But I'll say this: that's more than what Warner Brothers is doing. I mean, like I said, I'll attack Warner's. I'll praise them. I'll do the same for Disney. So I think Warner's owes them an apology too. Let's be blunt here over what they did with the Harry Potter franchise. I mean, the Harry Potter spinoff franchise there too. But
yep.
And nothing against Mads Mikkelsen. He was fine in that movie, but that was boneheaded, and from a marketing and PR point of view. And that's another one where I've said before, there's no one thing that destroyed that. It was a lot of things. Some that I agree with, some that I don't, but it was the Johnny Depp, Mads Mikkelsen thing. It's the Ezra Miller thing. It's the what's her name? The J.K. Rowling, related issues. Yes. There was the messaging that went into the writing. There's a perfect storm of crap on a cracker that people did not want to eat. Hide the rum, deleted scene says.
Why is the rum always gone?
I love that clip video you play during the I know I think you've even separated that out now, put it on your channel.
I did, just because I realized I didn't have that clip separately, and I wanted to use it as a meme in reference to someone else on social media who had shared something about crack and rum.
All right, continuing with Disney. Embattled Disney CEO Bob Chapek gets contract extension.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's get into this one.
Embattled Walt Disney Company chief Bob Chapek got a critical endorsement after the entertainment giant's board of directors voted unanimously on Tuesday to extend his contract for an additional 3 years. The move comes as Chapek's future has been hotly debated around Hollywood and in media circles. After taking the reins from his charismatic predecessor Bob Iger, Chapek got plaudits for his no-nonsense approach to growing Disney's streaming service to growing Disney streaming service, and he and the company's stock was initially rewarded when Disney Plus blew past subscriber projections after launching in 2019. That helped offset the lost revenue that Disney had to endure when the pandemic forced the company to shutter its parks and cruise businesses temporarily. But there were several missteps, most notably when Chapek dealt with a near staff revolt in the wake of his botched response to an anti gay bill in Florida. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
It's the author.
Well, no, but that does demonstrate the bias of the outlet that we're reading from. So let's
all right.
call that out.
Like I said, we have a Daily Wire article coming up later too. So we get from everybody, don't we? Okay.
Yep.
We are fair and balanced here. where Walt Disney, I'll get sued now.
We report, you decide.
Okay.
That sounds familiar, actually.
Okay. Anyway, so Chapek initially sought to avoid entering the political fray by largely remaining silent, which enraged staffers, but ultimately came against the new law and announced a pause on political donations in Florida. That infuriated Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who responded by abolishing Disney's self-governing district in Orlando. It's also thrown Disney, a company that has often tried to avoid the culture wars, into the center of several polarizing political debates. Those weren't the only times when Chapek's hand seemed less than steady. He also got into a high-profile standoff with Scarlett Johansson after the actor sued the company for its decision to simultaneously release her Marvel adventure Black Widow in theaters and on streaming in the summer of 2021. That move was seen as damaging to relations with the talent community. This month, Chapek attracted a fresh wave of negative coverage after he unceremoniously fired Peter Rice, a well-regarded executive who was seen as a possible successor to the Disney chief. Rice, who served as general entertainment chief, had recently renewed his contract, which forced Disney to pay out millions. At the time, the company's board made the highly unusual decision of publicly announcing that it was once again backing Chapek. On Tuesday, the board once again praised Chapek as the right steward to guide Disney through a tumultuous time in the entertainment business. Chapek extended contract, which kicks in July 1st, calls for him to be granted long-term annual stock awards of at least $20 million. Chapek's annual base salary of $2.5 million is unchanged, according to contract details disclosed in a Securities and Exchange Commission filing. Disney was dealt a tough hand by the pandemic, yet with Bob at the helm, our business, from parks to streaming, not only weather the storm, but emerge in a position of strength, said Susan Arnold, chairman of the board. In this important time of growth and transformation, the board is committing to keeping Disney on the successful path it is on today. And Bob's leadership is key to achieving that goal. Bob is the right leader at the right time for the Walt Disney Company, and the board has full confidence in him and his leadership team. Chapek is a 30-year veteran of Disney and previously oversaw the company's lucrative theme park business. Leading this great company is the honor of a lifetime, and I am grateful to the board for their support, said Chapek. I started at Disney almost 30 years ago and today have the privilege of leading one of the world's greatest, most dynamic companies, bringing joy to millions around the world. Okay, so we're going to be Chapek's going to be in there for a bit more time, isn't he?
Yeah, and I don't want to you know, in the interest of not just regurgitating from other channels, you know, you can go to them and hear it. I want to bring a different perspective that you might not be hearing anywhere else. But I will first mention, you know, I'm sure a lot of you follow Midnight's Edge and Valiant Renegade, and you know, a lot of the other bigger YouTubers that are incredibly insightful. They've got some great takes on this. Just real quick to sum up, they've made a comparison between the lack of announcement back when they renewed Kathleen Kennedy, um, and how literally there was no decision made until the very last minute, and the very public announcement about this renewal, and how it's more than 6 months in advance of his contract expiring. So both of those factors say a lot about the board's opinion of Chapek. It sends a loud message to the media and the people within Disney that have been in opposition to Chapek, and you know, it shows the tides changing over there. But what I want to point out that I don't hear a lot of people talking, what you're going to hear a lot of is a lot of people saying, well, this means that Bob Chapek is now in a position to start weeding out the woke and changing things and doing things better and stuff. And that is a sound theory. I need to see it happening. Okay, I haven't seen that yet. Until it happens, it's not happening. We did report, was it last week or the week before, on his firing of what's his name? Rice?
Yes.
Which one would argue is a step in the right direction. That is one of the chief wokosos over at Disney. That also sent a message, and the fact that it happened before his contract was announced means it's a direct vote by the board of approval of what he did, right? And am I correct? This vote was unanimous to extend his contract. Am I correct?
I am wondering what happened with this. Do you think Rice was making a play with the board to take over for Chapek? Maybe if you vote this guy out, you can put me in his place. I don't know. I'm not saying this is what happened, but you think maybe
that is a theory I had not heard anywhere.
I just thought of it
else.
now, so okay.
Well, no, that's fair. But I'm just pointing out how original that thinking is, and I think it's kind of brilliant. Obviously, based on speculation, I know you have no more insight than I do.
No insight. I'm not saying this happened. Yeah,
but it certainly seems reasonable based on the circumstantial evidence that we have. Right? I could see that playing out. I could see, because a lot of people had been speculating that he would have been the next in line for the job after you know, if
younger guy, more presentable, probably more like a Bob Iger, the
exactly.
Hollywood types love him, you know.
And he happened to be in the position within the company for it, and if come September, I think it was originally September when his contract was supposed to expire, if they had not decided to retain him, Rice probably would have been the most likely candidate coming up for it. So maybe posturing himself and assuming that's the way things were going, he may have started to try front loading that, and I could totally see the board that's already not happy with a lot of things that have happened in the Florida situation, and the crashing and burning of Lightyear and so many other things recently, and hearing Chapek constantly saying we're going in the wrong direction, we should not be bumping heads with politicians, we should not be pissing off all the parents, we should be making as much money as possible. Here we go again, I've just proven myself again, our profit margins are playing out exactly the way I said they would. And you've got these people that are responsible for that bottom line, and then you have someone come in and say, we need to get rid of Bob Chapek. Yeah. Why do we need to get rid of Bob Chapek, who's just been saying all the right things, that has been proving himself? Because you want to double down on what's not working. Now you've got our attention. It's not the kind of attention you want. Okay, yeah,
Truth
Bob, you can go ahead and fire this dingbat. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
truth is, I don't know where Bob Chapek is on the whole culture war thing. I
He
think
doesn't give a
maybe
crap. He
he,
does
he
not give a
probably doesn't
crap.
give a crap, but I also don't think he's. I don't know. Like, is it like a path of least resistance to him? Right? I just don't know.
No,
Based on what we saw with his whole apology, and then all the stuff that came out later. Now, granted, those may have been unrelated things. He may have been unaware of that Zoom meeting and the stuff being discussed. And I think that did that pop
no,
out after his apology? I don't know.
no. He is, and I've said this all along. There is nothing about him to indicate that he is what you would consider a conservative, or that
Right.
he's anti-woke, or that he gives a flying fig about any of that stuff.
Right.
He is a businessman. If anything, his reputation is that he's a penny pincher. So he does care about that bottom line to the exclusion of all else. And he's a pragmatist,
To the
right?
exclusion of Obi-Wan Kenobi's budget. I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
kidding. I'm
No,
kidding.
but I mean,
We haven't
there's something,
discussed Kenobi on this channel, but
there
yeah.
is something to be said for that too. It's I guess the best humor comes from honesty, but that's exactly it. And I myself and many others who've been speaking out against the woke, saying things like "go woke, go broke," as a truism, and pointing out how it continues to play out in basic economics. If you understand basic economics, just like understanding water flows downhill invariably, you know, you keep putting out a woke product nobody wants, you will lose money. It is a truism. You can excuse me, bank on it. And so somebody who doesn't care about messaging and only cares about finances is going to say, I don't care about woke, but it is a money loser. Get away from it. And that's what's happening. I think that the whole hostage video was a huge misstep. See Valiant Renegades videos about that. He goes into it in much more detail. It's a huge misstep for him, but in the long run, it's worked to his advantage in that he's able to say to the board, look, told you so. You told me to do this thing. I read your script and somehow it leaked. I don't know how it leaked. However, could that have happened? But it did. And now you know where people stand on this stuff. Now, there's people out there that want to say Bob Chapek himself did it. He's playing this 4D chess or whatever. Maybe he is, but I don't give anyone, that Sherlock Holmesian level of intelligence. Okay. You don't have to play 4D chess. Just play simple, normal 2D chess. Play checkers. Okay. The simple rules are the best. What is the best way to win this game? He's already 2 moves ahead of the idiot Wokosos, right? And even a computer that doesn't think knows how to figure out what the best winning strategy is. It doesn't take a lot.
Yeah. But speaking of Disney content,
Yep, here's another example that I feel is blowing up in their faces, and it tells me things have not changed yet. Everyone can yell and cheer about Bob Chapek being renewed, but that hasn't automatically brought about any changes. Go ahead and read the article.
leaked video from new Disney show features trans flag and robot that needs help with feminine hygiene. This is from, I guess leaked video from the new Disney show Baymax, based around the lovable robot that first appeared in the 2014 animated feature Big Hero 6, shows the titular character approaching a woman in a store and asking for help with feminine hygiene products. The brief video clip was obtained and posted by writer, filmmaker, and activist Christopher Rufo, who also recently obtained and shared video from the internal Disney corporate calls. Okay, so this is the same guy that leaked the Zoom meeting, that at least showed the leaked Zoom meeting from weeks ago, revealing the company's dedication to creating content even for young consumers that highlight and normalize radical gender ideology. Exclusive, I've obtained leaked video from Disney's upcoming show Baymax, which promotes the transgender flag and the idea that men can have periods to children as young as 2 years old, Rufo tweeted. It's all part of Disney's plan to re engineer the discourse around kids and sexuality. In the clip, Baymax stood in the feminine hygiene aisle of a store and stared at the shelf in front of him. After a moment, he turned to the woman next to him and asked her for recommendations for a good product. She responded first with surprise and then immediately did her best to assist him, and a crowd of others quickly joined in with their suggestions as well. Excuse me, which of these products would you recommend? Baymax asked. Well, these are the tampons I usually use, the woman replied. Thank you, Baymax said. I prefer pads, another woman interjected. They're more comfortable for me. Thank you, Baymax said again. I always get the ones with wings, another person whose shirt was a transgender flag chimed in as well. And the crowd around Baymax continued to grow. Another woman added, get unscented and bleach free if you can. Yo, my daughter loves these. A man reached over Baymax's shoulder to show him another package. These these might be easier if it's her first period. Yet another woman held a package out to Baymax as one more approached the group, saying, these are really environmentally friendly. Rufo's previous efforts to expose the going-ons at Disney netted a number of videos revealing the executives' not at all secret gay agenda and plans to infuse the shows for children of all ages with examples of multiple different gender identities and sexual orientations. Our leadership over there has been so welcoming to like not at all secret gay agenda, executive producer Latoya Ravenous said in the leaked video. Wherever I could, I was basically adding queerness to the show. If you see anything queer in the show, the Proud Family, nobody would stop me, and nobody was trying to stop me. So, yeah, obviously that leaked Zoom meeting, we talked about that a while back. That was pretty telling. I did watch the video in question. Yeah, there was the gentleman with the, or maybe does not identify as a gentleman wearing the shirt with the
It's not
transgender
clear.
flag.
It's it's not clear. Although Tim Pool made an excellent point about this. The assumption that people seem to be making, because he's wearing a transgendered flag on his shirt, he himself is transgendered. He said that doesn't necessarily follow. I mean, that's like a Mexican character wearing a Mexican flag, on his shirt. That's kind of on the nose. On the other hand, maybe he himself is not transgendered. He just supports transgendered or whatever the case is.
It's probably a subliminal thing trying to normalize it in the eyes of
Exactly. That's
children.
probably a little bit more. But what it comes down to is, and I see the reactions, from our own peanut gallery, for fuck's sake, good grief, pad talk. And I think just about every parent would be like, yeah, this is not really what I signed on for when I wanted my kid to be watching this. And it doesn't even focus in on the setup scene of the little girl being very open about having her first period with this robot character.
Yeah,
that's incredibly strange and awkward,
especially for a show marketed, I guess, toward children. I'm assuming that. I mean, this is Big Hero 6. This was the a big Disney animated feature years ago, not a Pixar film, regular Disney Animation Studios. It was actually a property they got when they bought Marvel. That was a comic series that Marvel put out. They made it into a Disney movie, and I think it got a regular animated series, which I did not watch. I did see the big feature, and liked it, enjoyed it enough. I just think it's odd that and it just seems like an odd subject matter for a children's cartoon.
It is, and I think the article hit the nose on the head. It's the sexualizing of children. Or the other side of this coin, you would think that with all that Disney has gone through recently, with all the groomer talk, they would want to distance themselves from anything that even comes close within a hair's breadth of anything sexual and children.
Keep in mind,
from the gender, get away from the sexuality. That's what one would think. But the fact that this is still happening, that tells me nothing has changed, at least not yet.
Well, for starters, this animated series animation takes a while, so this might have been in the works around the same time as Lightyear, for all we know. This could have been something that was in the works for years. I'm not even going to say it's necessarily the same animation quality as like its Pixar a Disney feature, not a Pixar feature.
But we'll get into diminishing returns a little bit later with another article we'll be looking at. But there comes a point that regardless of how much you've spent on it, sometimes releasing it is worse than just scrapping it and walking away from it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
I don't know, though. I don't remember seeing anything like this on a kids program. Now, you might see this on a sitcom or on 8 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
There might be jokes about tampons and stuff like that. And
that's the interesting thing. The actual scene, if you've seen the actual scene, I could see this being quite humorous if this was a Family Guy sketch, for example,
or like on Friends or something like that.
Yeah. And honestly, I've seen stuff like that.
Big Bang Theory, maybe that might be more
Oh
gosh,
right! Yeah. I could totally see. What's his name?
Sheldon.
Sheldon. Yeah. In fact, I would be not surprised if there hadn't been a scene like that. But No.
It just seems odd for a kids program. I mean, I guess maybe Big Hero 6 was rated PG, so older kids. But probably
but that doesn't apply when you have something on the Disney Channel, right?
Yeah, and I think this was just this is intended as a program for children, and it just seems odd.
Clearly, their continued woke marketing and messaging that has already very, very clearly been demonstrated to be a loser for them, and they're continuing to double down on it. So this is exactly why I still don't subscribe to Disney Plus. You can tell me how much you love Kenobi and Boba Fett and all the other crap that they're putting out there. I don't care. They will not get a single dollar from me.
Stephen Ransom, tell Warner Brothers about the logic of scrapping a whole feature film, Flashpoint. Oh, we'll get to that. In fact, I think that is a good segue.
That's exactly what I was referring to. We'll be getting to that article, and that's what I meant.
Oh, first up, the wacky world of Ezra Miller. I really shouldn't laugh because one day I'm going to read an article, and it's going to be a tragic article if they don't get this under control.
I'm afraid you're right.
The authorities really need to start investigating them before someone gets hurt. Yeah. And to be fair, I say before someone gets hurt, people have already been hurt.
Yep.
By Ezra Miller. And there's more to this article than what I'm going to read from. I do recommend you check it out. This is not the only woman he's abused. According to this article, there was another woman who I think he was getting into an argument because they were both Jewish, and she said, I had ancestors in the Holocaust. Well, I had more ancestors in the Holocaust. And I'm thinking,
this is not a competition you want to win.
They said, did I say he said? Anyways.
You know what? It's your channel. You're the one speaking. Nobody gets to tell you what pronouns you have to use in your speech.
No, I know that, but Ezra apparently gets violent if you he apparently will.
Well, I'll be the last person he gets violent with. Let me tell you that.
Anyway, let me read the article. This goes back to the woman Ezra choked out in Iceland. Remember that? When we read that?
Yep. Okay. And we have not, until now, we have not heard a comment from that woman.
Known her story, yes.
In fact, we keep bringing that up. We keep saying he could have been playing around. She could have been in on it. She's not come forward, so we don't know what's going on with this. Well, now we do.
So this is a clip from this article. It's a bigger story. I do recommend you check it out. But it's from Variety. In the spring of 2020, as the pandemic crisis was rapidly becoming I feel like Austin Powers in that movie. Please allow myself to introduce myself because I can't mention the name of the pandemic. Okay. The crisis was rapidly becoming a global pandemic. Ezra Miller began wearing out their welcome in Iceland. The actor, best known for playing the DC superhero The Flash in several films for Warner Brothers, was set to start filming the studio's latest entry in the Harry Potter franchise, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, in London when the shoot was halted on March 15th, 2020 due to the pandemic. In the weeks after, Miller, who identifies as non-binary, uses they them pronouns, became a regular at bars in Iceland's capital, Reykjavik. So that right? Reykjavik.
Yeah, I don't speak the language, so
I think
that's
it is
definitely
Reykjavik.
Appropriate for the Anglo
I think it's Reykjavik. I think I've heard it. Where locals came to know and even befriend them. Miller, then 27, also started to show a different, volatile side to their personality, one that began to concern Icelanders. There was always something with Ezra, said Carlos Reiner, then a bartender at Perkio Kifius, a pub located at the heart of Reykjavik. Rayner said he intervened in two altercations at Bricchio involving Miller. The first was a heated argument between Miller and a male patron that began as banter but ended in the actor putting the man in a chokehold and later slapping him. Rayner, who broke up the fight, says Miller later apologized and the other patron quickly shrugged it off as a joke. The actor was allowed to continue frequenting the bar. We just brushed it off as two friends getting drunk and getting in a fight, Rayner said. It's
Okay, that's
Iceland that
reasonable. I can see that.
yeah, it's Iceland that happens twice a weekend.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Sure, sure.
There you go. I'm sure it's a lovely country. I've never been, but okay.
Well, no, I mean anybody who's ever been to certain bars, not all bars, but certain bars, things happen. People get a little, little ornery.
Men can do that and then get a drink after.
It's funny because we joke especially after the rewatch of Roadhouse. You're nice until it's time to not be nice, but that really is true with most bouncers. Bouncers don't just go in and bust your skull and throw you through the window like they do in the movies. They usually just come over. Okay, guys, let's calm it down. They may not even throw anybody out right away.
Yeah, in fact, you remember in Roadhouse, there was an example of a bouncer maybe making a situation worse. Remember when Jack Dalton saw him when he was actually,
Yeah,
getting violent with one of the bar patrons? Maybe he could have calmed it down and done it a different way. That was
exactly.
shown too. It's not just the fact that they weren't doing anything; it's also maybe the fact
Well,
that
we
they were
just did a
making it
recent
worse. Yeah.
rewatch of Heartbreak Ridge, and the bar owner comes, rousting and with his nightstick, and it's like, dude, this is not necessary.
Yeah.
And even the guy on stage that was the butt of the hostilities, like, we can work this out. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
You don't need to jump to that. So yeah, no, that's I want to be fair to the patronage and the venue that we're talking about here.
Anyway, but the next altercation in which Miller assaulted a young woman at the bar was harder to discount. The incident grabbed global headlines when footage of Miller placing the woman in a chokehold and then pushing her to the ground went viral online in early April 2020. Soon after the incident, Variety spoke with the woman Miller assaulted. She recently confirmed that her comments could be printed for this article. She asked to remain anonymous out of concern for her privacy.
I don't blame her.
Yeah, as she's telling her story publicly for the first time. Well, especially when the authorities have yet to do anything about this gentleman.
Yep.
Okay, in the blurry video, Miller is seen confronting the woman who is smiling and waving her arms as she walks toward them and asking, "Do you want to fight? Is that what you do?" After Miller grabs her neck, he lets out an audible gasp. After Miller grabs her neck, she lets out an audible gasp. The person filming the video stopped to intervene. Variety has confirmed. According to three sources, the woman had been speaking to Miller at the bar prior to the quarrel. She said she inquired about the actor's feet, visible flip-flops, after noticing some wounds, which Miller explained were battle scars from a fight. After discussing how they got them, she began to walk away but turned around and joked, "But just so you know, I could take you in a fight." Miller replied, "Do you really want to fight?" Said the woman told them to meet her in the smoking area in 2 minutes. Eventually, Miller confronted her outside the bar. "I think it's just fun and games, but then it wasn't," she said. Later on in the article, when Miller started showing up at Prikio Cafeos in Reykjavik, their unusual behavior was at first chalked up to the eccentric whims of a visiting celebrity. If they weren't lighting incense or candles, or even bringing their own Bluetooth speaker and playing it super loud to overpower our music, there was always something. Rayner, the bartender at Prikio, said. We'd approach them and say, "How do you mind? Hey, do you mind? There are other people here." It was a bit of a chuckle, and then they would go, "Yeah, sure," and they'd stop, only to continue a little bit later. To The day Miller assaulted the woman at Pricchio in April 2020, her initial interactions with them felt at first to be in a similarly barbed yet easygoing vein. When she told Miller to meet her in the smoking area, she said she meant it as a joke, and it appeared that Miller took it as one when they remained inside. But then a friend of the woman who approached Miller and told them that he'd heard the actor didn't want to fight. My friend didn't have to say that the woman aloud. It was just a joke, obviously. But Miller took that literally and got super mad and came running outside. And that's when one of the women's friends started recording. I think it's just okay. I think it's funny again. And it wasn't. She said all of a sudden, they're on top of me, choking me, still screaming in my face. I want to fight. My friend who's filming sees they're obviously not joking around. It's actually seriously. So he stops filming and pushes them off me, and they're trying to still fight me. Two guy friends of mine are actually holding Miller back as they're screaming, "This is what you wanted. This is what you wanted." At the time of the interview, it was unclear whether the woman was aware that Miller uses they them pronouns. Okay, so I guess the author inserted those. The Miller said Miller spat in her friend's face multiple times, an affront that was dangerous in the early pre-vaccine days of the pandemic. Variety in 2020 confirmed Miller's actions with her friend, who also wished to remain anonymous. Eventually, she said a bartender, Rayner, ran outside to break up the fight. Rayner then arrived early for his shift that day and had seen the woman in the smoking area with their friends and Miller. When he saw the situation getting out of hand, he decided to get involved. Miller grabs me by the throat as I'm trying to usher them out the back door and tells me they're not leaving. Rayner said he added that Miller repeatedly claimed that the woman's friends had pushed them, which they didn't, the bartender said. He's done this before.
Yep.
He did this with the cops. We saw in the video when he's accusing the cops of doing things they obviously aren't doing because we're seeing the footage of what they're doing at the time. They proceeded to spit my face several times, so with the final push, I closed and locked the door, he added. Rayner then ran to lock the tavern's front entrance where Miller, who had run along the perimeter of the building, was banging on the door and screaming to be let in. Eventually, the actor was ushered into a car by two local friends and driven away. Variety corroborated Rayner's account with three other sources, including management of Pricchio. The woman reported the incident to the police. The report was confirmed by Variety, but didn't press charges. Rayner was then allowed to finish work early and took a disease for the, a test for the disease the next morning, which came back negative. He said, "I do believe the incident at the bar was what ruined Miller's reputation throughout Iceland." Rayner said they stopped coming to other bars shortly after. There's a lot I want to say about this. As an American, this kind of embarrasses me. There's an expression known as the ugly American.
Ugly American, yeah.
And this is clearly that. I'm assuming Ezra Miller is American. But yeah, okay. So
unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's just, I know we're not responsible for his actions, but it's still bad. I don't want people of Iceland thinking we're all uncouth. I mean, if you go visit another country, you be on your best behavior. You're a guest in that country,
Well, at least that's previous generations used to believe that. Now, it's all about me and,
Yeah, I know.
But the other thing that's really important to point out here is like I said, up until this point, anyone who had seen just the raw footage of the video would be like, it looks like she doesn't, believe this is real, like she's in on her, she's laughing or whatever. And now we finally got the confirmation that she wasn't literally trying to start a fight with him. She thought it was all just in play until it wasn't, she said.
This is what I took of the video. I took it as she was playing around. Oh, here's a famous guy playing a super. I assume she's like, "Oh, I'm a super villain. I'll fight you, Flash." Blah, blah. It was a joke like that, right. And then he goes nuts and starts choking her. I remember when that first happened, thinking he was acting like the Joker more than the Flash in that scene.
Yeah.
And this is just
this is completely removed from anything having to do with his roles or him being an actor. This was clearly a conversation they were having,
obviously,
and the actual joke was and I could totally see making exactly the same joke. Let's face it, in a fight I could take you. Nobody in their right mind takes that seriously, especially when you're walking away.
It's just a little polite joshing.
And you go, okay, yeah, you could take me, whatever. But then, when someone comes at you like that, you assume because you were being good natured that they're being good natured too. We're gonna, yeah, da 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 da, like you would
Also,
do on a talk show or something. Nope, this was legit. He really took her to the ground, and she's like, okay, this is not okay.
I mean,
And
let's be blunt. It's not really okay to assault anyone, but I know men get in the scuff sometimes.
no,
It's
no,
never
you're
really okay with a woman. I'm
look.
sorry. This
This
is
is
not.
this is the kind of conversation no one should ever have to have.
Yeah.
Normal people know how to interact, and there are things that you should never lay hands on someone else unless you know that you have that kind of relationship where you can get away with it. But even if you don't, there might be an understanding between acquaintances that, okay, we're just playing around, and everyone's fine with it. No harm, no foul. That's what I think she thought was happening in this circumstance. And, even when someone gets out of line a little bit, you might be forgiving. Okay, you're drunk. Let's just, chill out. But it went beyond that way too fast.
Question though,
Mm-hmm.
did this incident happen before they started filming the Flash movie?
I don't know the timeline only because
Because it looks like Fantastic Beasts: Secrets of Dumbledore was the big movie they were shooting at this time,
probably.
and I'm thinking maybe they had started the work on the Flash yet.
Honestly, I've completely lost track of the timeline for this Flashpoint.
Let me find out when this
Ironic
started.
as it may be, given the subject matter it deals with, but yeah, it was. My understanding is it's been done for so long. I don't know when it began and when it finished.
Let me find out when it started filming. Bear with me. Production on
But yeah,
Flashpoint began life in 2005. Wait a minute. Hold on. Maybe I'm thinking
and
of something else. Hold on.
Matanui says this guy just doesn't stop, does he? Honestly, I think at this point, everyone is
Okay.
pretty much of the opinion that he has some very serious mental problems. I don't think he's even capable of stopping. This is
April
Ezra Miller.
April to October 2021. This happened before then. This was a red flag. Yeah, they. This was like almost a full. This was like a full year before they started filming Flashpoint. They had plenty of time to axe that project, or they at least postpone it. I mean, there were other things they could give priority to this. I mean, the Shazam sequel or whatever. They didn't have to go
Yeah.
with Flashpoint, especially considering how much of a bomb Justice League was. I don't even know why they were even trying to continue on with the whole Snyderverse at that point.
Yeah. Stephen Otten even responds to that, and he says he can be stopped. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Well, this story took place in Reykjavik. If this happens in the United States, especially after the Bruin case that was just settled the other day, could go very differently. You start a fight with the wrong person, they'll stop you very permanently.
So we have another article here, and I'm sorry, I have to conclude. I mean, I tend to cut Warner slack because I feel like maybe they're starting to reform, but they still have a ways to go.
Yeah.
But because I know Zaslav is in there now, and to be fair, even Warner's prior, they
And
still made more things I like than
and
maybe
this is
say Disney
specifically
would.
what I was speaking to earlier. Uh, when I was basically, and um, Stephen Ransom brought it up too. There comes a point of diminishing returns where maybe you need to scrap regardless of how much you spent on a project, no matter how close it is to done, it will hurt you more to put this movie out than it will do you any benefit.
Warner's is under pressure to address the Flash star Ezra Miller's spiraling legal scandals. So yeah, it's time for Warner Brothers Discovery to talk about Ezra Miller. According to crisis management experts, the actor who portrays superhero The Flash in the studio's DC Extended Universe, including in an upcoming big budget film, has come under scrutiny in recent months for pattern of disturbing behavior and allegations of misconduct. Miller 29 made headlines in 2020 after a video surfaced showing them appearing to violently choke a fan. However, incidents of impropriety escalated in 2022 where they were arrested and charged with disorderly conduct and harassment at a karaoke bar in Hawaii. Hours before their court appearance in April for these charges, Miller was arrested again after an altercation in which they were accused of throwing a chair and injuring a woman. Now, two orders of protection have been granted, one for a 12-year-old in Massachusetts and one for Gibson Iron Eyes, an 18-year-old Standing Rock activist who was allegedly groomed by Miller, according to parents Chase Iron Eyes and Sarah Jumping Eagle. Authorities have been unable to locate Miller. In order to serve these orders, Gibson is believed to be traveling with Miller. Miller notably deleted their Instagram account earlier this week after posting cryptic photos and messages that appeared to taunt police. The allegations against Miller come almost a year before Warner's is slated to release The Flash, a $100 million film that is part of the studio's DC franchise. When you start to have a string of things, that's a worrying problem, said Tony Feinberg, president at Edendale Strategies, a crisis management strategic communications firm. It's worrying about what it says about someone's well-being, and it's worrying about what it says about someone suitably to be the face of a large Warner Brothers franchise. Any one thing could be a misunderstanding, he added, but when you start getting into 4 or 5, 6 things, you're starting to get into troubling territory. Miller's talent agent and legal representatives did not immediately respond to CNBC's request for comment. Silence is not an option, said Ava Neerman, author of Crisis Averted, CEO of crisis PR firms Red Banyan. At a certain moment, choosing to say nothing, you are communicating a message. Warner Brothers had remained quiet during Miller's assault arrests earlier this year, but sources within the company said emergency meetings were held in April to discuss their recent controversies and how the studio would proceed going forward. At that time, it was determined that the film would remain on the slate, but Warner Brothers would pause future projects involving the actor. The studio even teased The Flash during a presentation at CinemaCon in late April, suggesting that it still planned to proceed with the film's release next year. Miller has been associated with the DC expanded universe since the release of Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice in 2016 and has been a key part of Warner Brothers' produced Fantastic Beasts film series, which still had 2 movies left to film. I did see the last Fantastic Beasts movies. It was looking likely that the Miller character was dying in that, so it's possible Ezra Miller would not be in a follow-up. But okay, if they are hoping that it's just going to go away or people are going to forget about this, I think they are mistaken, Neerman said. Warner Brothers did not immediately respond to CNBC's request for comment. The studio was in a tough spot on social media. Fans of the DC expanded universe are clamoring for Miller to be recast, but doing so and reshooting a movie is incredibly expensive, and the studio might not be able to make back enough profit from the box office to outweigh its investment. It's also not as simple as shoving the film and taking a write-off on the multi-million-dollar budget. Feinberg noted that Warner Brothers is probably in the midst of evaluating every contract associated with the film to determine what it can legally do going forward. If actors or producers have film proceeds baked into their contracts, Warner Brothers may be legally obligated to release the film regardless of whether Miller is in violation of any morality clauses within their own contract. I think Warner Brothers is in a horrible position, Feinberg said. It's not typical that people feel sorry for movie studios, but I genuinely feel sorry for Warner Brothers because they have a nightmarish situation trying to figure out what to do because every option that they have is bad. Warner Brothers recently merged with Discovery in a deal worth $143 billion, which means top brass of the company aren't just inheriting content, but the crisis that come with them. Experts told CNBC what David Zaslav, the president and CEO of the newly minted Warner Brothers Discovery, is likely very involved with how the company ultimately will respond to the situation. Feinberg suggested that Warner Brothers could also be holding back on speaking publicly about the Miller matter because these are allegations. An allegation is just an allegation. It's not proven, Feinberg said. They have the right to due process and everything else, but on the other hand, what's being said about them is very serious. Whatever Warner Brothers decides will be the studio's strategy going forward. Both Feinberg and Neerman agree that it needs to be done quickly. The key for Warner Brothers is to be quick, but don't hurry, Feinberg said, quoting basketball coach John Wooden. There's no time to waste, but they don't want to announce something that is half-baked. Neerman echoed that sentiment, noting that any statement needs to be communicated with transparency and authenticity, and that saying nothing would be a bad choice. If they were my client, I would recommend going public with a statement and doing so with strategic outcome in mind, Neerman said about Warner Brothers. If they know that they intend to release the film, then explain why they are not scrapping the film at this point. The public and reasonable people would understand, he added. In a flash, your reputation can evaporate, and for that reason, they need to take that seriously. Where is Warner Brothers right now with this? What can they do? What do you think? I know we've talked about this before.
So we know that Zaslav is pretty hard line. He has no problem swinging the axe, right? And again, I think I was pretty clear that I felt that what needed to happen here is they need to divorce themselves from this character. From not the character of the Flash, but from the actor, from Ezra Miller. And look, if you can, drop Johnny Depp, you really, really, really have no excuse for not dropping Ezra Miller.
Okay. The problem going forward is that apparently he's in like every scene in the movie, almost every scene in the movie. They'd have to reshoot the whole thing.
Right. Again, this is where
they reshoot the whole thing.
They could. Actually, I think they need to. I think there's a bigger problem here than just Ezra Miller. And Ezra Miller's a big enough problem. They need to get their shit figured out for their whole DC universe. They need to decide what they're doing. And I am 99% sure, without knowing anyone that works for Warner Brothers, without having seen Flashpoint myself, I'm that certain that they went into it with the intent of a hard reboot, soft reboot, whatever you want to call it, of their DC cinematic universe without any flippin' clue what they're actually doing. They don't have a plan. They just know they need to do something. And that's all this was. What they really need to do is scrap it, figure out what the frick they're going to do, get somebody in charge who's of that level, like we've said before, a Favreau type of of person who can look at their properties and weave a tapestry that they can work with that will go over well. Until you do that, there shouldn't be a Flashpoint at all. But regardless of all of that, you also have the problem that nobody likes Ezra Miller. Nobody really support. No, he doesn't even have Amber Heard level of support at this point.
Could they play a mental health angle, like he's having a mental health breakdown? We're worried about him.
I'm sure that's probably exactly the case. But what they don't even need to address Ezra Miller. They could go on the first thing I said. We are retooling what we are doing with our DC universe, and going forward with the Flash as it is now does not support that. We're going to go a different route, and let the trade say what they want about how much money they're leaving on the table, how much money was already spent. It was already in the can, and they're scrapping a movie that's already set to go. Let them speculate that it has to do with Ezra.
All right.
You just don't make an official thing about it. But, there's a lot of people saying, well, they put so much money into it, they have to. No, they don't, because they should have enough intelligence, enough economic acumen to know that this can hurt them more than help them, that it is a money losing prospect, and no amount of money that they get at the box office is going to make up for how badly it damages the name of Warner Brothers and the DC cinematic universe.
Let's look at where the DC expanded universe, I think they call it, is. You have the Aquaman movies, which are directly tied to the Snyderverse. Yeah. Shazam is, but it's looser, I've noticed. Okay, so could you maybe spin Shazam off into a new, and just say it's part of a new DC expanded universe? Maybe. I don't know. I'm thinking about that. You have this upcoming Batgirl movie, which is going to have the Michael Keaton Batman in it, correct?
That's
As
the
an,
theory, yes.
I'm taking. Is he going to be an older Batman in that?
Probably. Well, he'd have to be, right?
Because that could be interesting.
And
maybe
that was one of the big sticking points, right? Because that was the setup for that was supposed to be in this Flash movie,
okay.
and that's the biggest problem. You don't have that setup if you go into what they might end up having to do is rework the Batgirl movie in order to explain that setup.
I don't know. Maybe just create a new DC cinematic universe where maybe just this Michael Keaton Batman is the Batman of that universe.
I feel like there's a lot of voices over
you
there.
You have a new Flash. You have new actress of Flash. He's the new Flash.
Yeah.
You could always even retain Jason Momoa and Gal Gadot and Henry Cavill. Just have them play different iterations of Superman and Wonder Woman, but keep the actors maybe.
I got the distinct impression that there was a contingent of people behind the scenes at Warner Brothers pushing for something like that. Okay. All this talk you've heard about, well, we're not really going to be working on a shared cinematic universe anymore. We're going to have them all be standalone. That was basically their way of saying we can't keep screwing around with this. We have some films that are working and some that aren't. We need to step away from the things that aren't working. But keep doing the things that are. Wonder Woman doesn't have to have anything to do with the Snyderverse anymore. We're just going to keep telling her story and it's fine. Same thing with Aquaman. We don't have to deal with anything about that. And oh, by the way, Mara died during childbirth. Moving on and, continue. That might be an intelligent way to start doing it, but something's got to give here with this Ezra stuff.
All I know is what I know about Zaslav from what I heard behind the scenes. He's very interested in them getting back to doing a proper doing something with Superman. He's probably wondering
why man in that regard,
why haven't they done anything with Superman? He's like the biggest superhero.
He's the biggest superhero, most popular, and he's the cornerstone. If you want to do a shared universe, he's the cornerstone of your universe. Okay, even if you don't, he should be your tent pole.
Like, I don't have a problem with doing a Flash movie. Flash is a popular character, and I heard they were doing a Blue Beetle movie. I don't know how that would turn out, but
they're unfortunately they're not doing the Ted Kord, which I think is a missed opportunity. This is another example of them putting the cart in front of the horse.
Will Ted Kord be in it? Maybe.
No, probably not. Right. Probably not, and there's no need for him to be.
Because on Batman the Brave and the Bold, you had the younger Blue Beetle, but then Ted Kord shows up later, and you find his story, and it was interesting.
I don't know. I just feel like, just like I complained about with the Suicide Squad, nobody gives a crap about a bunch of villains that you'd never heard of before.
That thing's a mess, and they've lost Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. She's done with the role, she said.
She's probably smart to do that, but
they need to scrap. They have.
Nobody cares about
retain the actors you like and want to continue using, and just put them in a new universe, and then recast the actors you don't want to keep, and just start fresh. Start fresh with Flashpoint if you want. In this universe, it's an older Batman, but then you have Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman because he's immortal, and then you could have, if they still want to use Henry Cavill, I guess they do. So they put him. I don't necessarily have anything against him personally. I didn't like his iteration of Superman, but I don't think he's necessarily a bad actor or even bad for the part necessarily. But
yeah, Well, I think what they're doing is they're devaluing all of their DC franchise, which I think is a great lead into the next article where their television properties or their television versions are apparently worth less than zero.
That was a movie with Robert Downey Jr.
Yes, it was.
Did you see that movie? That had a good score. That had a good soundtrack, actually. Less than zero.
Yep. Actually, back in the 80s, everything had an excellent score. Well, soundtrack.
A lot of
maybe not score, but they had music. Yeah.
Scores were good in the 80s.
It was a lot of pop music and stuff that was playing on the radio. I bought soundtracks like crazy. That might drive soundtracks with Birdman, off a cliff because he loves scores. I love soundtracks, but I mean, like, the pop music of the 80s.
There's room for both. I'm telling you, I'll have a conversation with Birdman about soundtracks. I'm sure he must have some. Even though he's all about scores. Yeah.
I mean, and there's some that really blend the two beautifully. If you think about the
Oh,
soundtrack from St. Elmo's Fire,
yeah.
there's some great, you know, almost symphonic type music that um for just a moment I don't the theme song from St. Elmo's Fire. On the one hand you have Man in Motion, which was I think it was at least a top 10 hit, you know, on the pop charts, but then you had that beautiful string piece that was called For Just a Moment. There's a vocal duet version of it on the soundtrack, but it's definitely a score piece that gets sampled throughout the backing track or whatever you want to call it of the album. Yeah, gosh, you know, soundtracks of Birdman. You know, if you do a show, if you do St. Elmo's Fire, I definitely want in on that. It's one of my favorite soundtracks from that era. I love that Brat Pack stuff. I'd definitely be up for that.
Remember that? Remember, I think there's a line about premarital sax.
Premarital
He says
sex.
saxophone. Just I don't know. It was just, I don't know.
Yes. Yes.
Just get the guys making the Tomorrowverse for the Superman Man of Tomorrow is amazing. Yeah, well, back when they made Batman and Robin by Joel Schumacher, they could have gotten Paul Dini to write that screenplay. Did they? No. Maybe they could have gotten J. Michael Straczynski, who wrote a number of real Ghostbusters episodes, to write a Ghostbusters movie script. Might have made sense, but we don't always get those.
We'll get to the Ghostbusters in a bit, but yeah.
Here we are. DC Studios. I don't know why it says DC Studios. CW. Okay.
Whatever you
CW
want to call it, yeah.
bought for $0. Failed superhero shows in Wait a minute, what is that?
I
Superhero
just
shows
copied
in
and
crumbles.
pasted. I did not proofread for these dumbasses.
This is from Inside the Magic, so that's why. But they were the first one I found that was really reporting on this, so that's why I picked them.
Yeah.
As a result of CW's fail, and I only took out the meat of this article too. This meanders a bit. So, as a result of CW's failing audience reach and the network's recent production deterioration from the inside out, Nexstar has acquired the DC station for free. That's right, they're paying $0. Nexstar will acquire 75% of the CW for $0. Instead, Nexstar will assume a significant portion of the CW's current losses, which could exceed $100 million. Yeah, like I said, when I was thinking, how are they making money off of these CW shows that nobody's watching? Oh, I guess they aren't.
They're not. They're in the hole, actually.
The catch, Nexstar will assume
just a note on that. I believe that we had said, going back when we first were talking about this, we pointed out that profit was not their motive, that in fact they were getting infusions of money to push their messaging, and profit wasn't an issue. I said eventually that money runs out and this is not sustainable. Well, here we are.
Nexstar will assume loss reported 100 million. So you said negative. I remember you made the joke. What was it, negative 100 million?
Yeah. I said this is a incorrectly titled article here. They're saying that it was sold for $0. It was actually sold for negative 100 million. And this is what I think a lot of dumbasses, and you'll probably get to this within the article itself, a lot of people on social media saying, damn, you know, I could have gotten it for $0. I could afford that. I'm like, no, you can't. Read the article, because with it comes $100 million of debt.
DC is not stuck with only producing their series on CW, as their insanely popular Gotham show earned an impressive 7.8 out of 10 IMDb rating over its 5-season run. Well, that was Gotham. That wasn't even on the CW. That was on a network channel, right? It's NBC or Fox or something like that.
Which one?
Gotham.
It
was the prequel Batman series. Yeah,
you're right. That one, we had even talked about the fact that it wasn't on CW, and I said that's a difference without a distinction, right? Because people, well, it's not CW. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's the same production company. You know,
Supergirl was originally on ABC, and then it moved to the CW. I remember that.
Should have died on ABC.
In March 2022, Superman and Lois were ordered for a third season, with Grant Gustin's The Flash also being renewed for its 9-month season. DC's Stargirl is also set to air later this year for its third season, but with the recent acquisitions of the network, fans aren't sure what's next for their beloved heroes, so my $3 bid would have worked. Another viewer writes, for $0, I could have bought it. One viewer shares, don't ever tell me the Arrowverse shows have some underrated value now. If they put more effort into their projects, they would be less than worthless.
Yep, they are less than worthless.
Okay.
They
wouldn't be less. They wouldn't be less than worthless. Okay, I misquoted.
Yeah.
That's why I was confused. I don't know. I haven't watched any CW series in years. I did watch the pilot for Superman and Lois. It didn't grab me. I like the actors cast as Superman and Lois. They were spot on.
I agree with you there. I really, still don't like the Superman costume, but
no, and he has that stubble going on too. I don't know why that's a thing. Superman should be clean shaven, but him himself and the actress playing Lois, I thought they were spot on look wise as Superman and Lois. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe the show improved. I didn't watch it, but I don't know if anybody in the chat has been watching Superman and Lois. But
I have not. I didn't even watch the first episode. I had no interest. I've had no interest in this whole season. I've told the story after they walked away from Smallville and decided not to let any of their CW stuff be spin-offs, and they decided to reinvent the wheel. I said, I'm not reinvesting. And the more I've heard about CW, I feel like I was better off for it.
Arrow had a strong first season when I did watch it. I know you didn't, but because it reminded me of Lost, there were these flashbacks to his time on the island when he crashed. So they did flashbacks, and it was almost like watching Lost in reverse. Like instead of it being on the island and the flashback to their lives before, it was like his flashback to his life in Central City now when he returned versus the flashbacks to the island. And what was funny about there's a scene on it where like he's on the island trying to survive, but then he runs into like this one guy on the island, and like there's like some kind of evil terrorist type group on the island doing operations, and they get captured by it. And like I think Oliver Queen's refusing to talk or whatever, says, okay, well then we'll have to bring out our then the man coming in next, you'll be more terrified of him. And then the guy, and he's wearing the Deathstroke costume, who comes in next, and I freaked out. I'm like, it's Deathstroke, but
yeah. Real quick, I did want to respond to Matanui. He makes Matanui, you really do contribute to the conversation here, because sometimes you ask the questions that I suspect a lot of other people might have and never bring up. It's a good one. So he says, I don't understand the phrase distinction without a difference, because a distinction in and of itself is a difference. And you're right. You've almost actually answered your own question. It's a type of logical fallacy, okay, that people use to point out that there actually is not a difference. You're trying to make an argument that two things are different when they in fact are not. So you're absolutely right.
I don't even know what channel the CW is. The CW.
CW is one of those syndication channels, kind of like the WB was before it. And what was the other channel that
UPN? It was when UPN combined with the WB to form.
So these were
the CW.
These were networks that were not dedicated networks. So let's talk about, like ABC. Here in Chicago, ABC appears on Channel 7 on, terrestrial television.
Channel 7 in a lot of states. It was in New Jersey,
a lot, but not all. It
Yeah.
could be on 6. It could be on 8. It could be on another channel. And especially when you're talking about on cable, it could be 77. It could be 33. It could be anything, right? It's just a network, but it's a dedicated channel. Whether you tune in at 6 a.m, 6 p.m, middle of the night, 3 a.m, it's still ABC. Whereas WB and UPN were only prime time. So you had some local affiliate, usually on the UHF channels. In Illinois, it was 32, channel 32. Actually, I shouldn't say even in Illinois. It really only in the Chicago area. It was channel 32, and you had local programming. For us, it was stuff like the news and local channels and Son of Svengoolie, stuff like that. But and other shows that Rich Coase, who plays Svengoolie, used to do. And I say that because I know he's gone national now, so I know a lot of you guys know who he is now. But anyway, but then at 7:00 local time, it would do the switch over, and it would start playing the primetime shows of UPN, and it would play until, I don't know, like 10 at night, 11 at night, and then it would switch over to the local news. So you only got like about 4 or 5 hours of that network, I say in quotes, but it would be different in different places, and it might even start at different times. So, someone in Indiana might not even be seeing, Smallville at the same time as I am. They might see it an hour early or an hour later, even if they were in the same time zone. It was very, very strange because they would pull in the network. The local affiliate would pull in the show and then broadcast it on their own time. Not that it was being played nationwide, at the same time. So yeah, that's and then that got really, really strange when you could have a show playing at 7:00 in New York, and maybe there was some spoilers and people were talking about it on the internet, and nobody in the next time zone had even seen the show yet, and people would get pissed. That's been a problem for a long time, actually. So now the CW, when it combined those two networks, I'm getting way more detailed than I need to, aren't I? It became a network that's much more like ABC, CBS, NBC, where it's dedicated for almost all day, but it's still considered to be a syndication channel where the local affiliate is the local affiliate and they carry the programming for CW, which is a Warner Brothers, or has been up till now, a Warner Brothers production. Yeah. I don't know if that helped or just confused you more.
Probably a little bit of both. I did want to mention that the deleted scenes had to leave for the evening, so have a good night. Thanks,
Stephen Otten. I saw you doing the Blue Wrench thing like crazy, like you always do. Super appreciate you.
And Daniel Heron mentioned somebody made a comment made a kind of a rude comment on one of his videos. Let's all be polite in the chat. I'm not saying it was one of anyone here, but I'm not sure who he's referring to. But let's all be polite.
Yeah, here. There's a lot of assholes on the internet. I speak from experience.
Yes. Okay. But yeah, we love Birdman's videos. Check out Birdman's channel. I'm on there often too. Okay. So fans have reacted negatively to Ms. Pac-Man's removal in Pac-Man World Remake. Okay.
Yeah, this was obviously I know who Ms. Pac-Man is, but I'm not in the gaming scene, so you're gonna have to fill me in here, Boomer.
Well, you know who Miss Pac-Man is, right? Ms. Pac-Man is, right? You've heard of that game.
It was the sequel to the original Pac-Man back in the 80s. And
yes.
What was great about these games was that after you got through a certain number of levels, you get an intermission, which gave an implied storyline. And in Ms. Pac-Man, the implication was that, after doing the whole running away from the monsters thing and whatnot, she'd run into Pac-Man and they fell in love. And then after a few more levels of beating the ghost monsters, she and Pac-Man would go off screen, and then they come back with some babies.
Yeah, Pac-Man Jr., right?
Yeah, and then Pac-Man Jr. was the next sequel game. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's what's going on with Ms. Pac-Man now. Bandai Namco announced on Tuesday that it was working on a Pac-Man World repack. Pac-Man World was a like a kind of a platforming Pac-Man game made in the late 90s for the PlayStation 1, and now they're making a remake of it in 1999. Okay. The original game had Pac-Man traveling through 6 worlds in an attempt to rescue 6 other characters, including Ms. Pac-Man. However, the announced trailer for Repack shows that Ms. Pac-Man has been replaced with the new, recently introduced Pac-Mom character. The substitution is a result of Bandai Namco's attempt to keep Ms. Pac-Man out of its games until it resolves an ongoing dispute over rights to the character's royalties. Ms. Pac-Man has always had issues regarding royalties. The character isn't an official Namco creation and was instead created by Midway, who had been given rights to produce Pac-Man products in North America, and a group of U.S. programmers at the General Computer Corporation. As a result, anytime Ms. Pac-Man has appeared in Bandai Namco products, GCC has reportedly owed royalties. The situation was exacerbated, further complicated in 2019 when At Games, a company that specializes in mini retro consoles and handhelds, released a Ms. Pac-Man mini arcade cabinet despite Bandai Namco claiming it never gave permission to do so. Bandai Namco and At Games, who 1 week later did a deal with GCC to acquire the Ms. Pac-Man royalties interest, allegedly owed to it. Since then, Bandai Namco has seemingly made efforts to ensure that Ms. Pac-Man doesn't appear in any of its games so as to avoid further complicating the royalties dispute. Following the trailer's release, a number of fans have been lamenting the removal of one of the series' most iconic characters. I'm all for creators getting the credit and money they deserve, but the situation with Ms. Pac-Man is complicated and messed up, said Twitter user at Super Mario Fan 1. I do like that. that handle. It's led to Namco simply avoiding any use of the character whenever possible. There needs to be a new deal that leads to the character being used again. Well, I'm sure the Pac-Man World remake is going to be good. I can't help but get annoyed by the Namco and At Game situation regarding the use of Ms. Pac-Man, said at Blue Squid Bro. Is it really that hard to use a beloved character, or are we going to be stuck with Pac-Mom? Other fans have noted that despite the removal of the character, the Miss Pac-Man theme music can still be heard in the trailer, suggesting Bandai Namco will still be keeping the soundtrack intact. This is the second time Ms. Pac-Man has been removed from one of their previous roles. Pac-Man Museum Plus, which was released last month, is a compilation featuring 14 Pac-Man arcade and console games, but despite being one of the most iconic titles in the series, Ms. Pac-Man isn't one of them. Her sprite has also been removed from the compilation's version of Pac-Land, replaced by Bandai Namco's new Pac-Mom character.
Now, in what way is this Pac-Mom character visually different?
I think she wears a hat, has like curlers. She's a little visually different, so she's a different female Pac.
She's
person.
more matronly.
I think so. Yeah, I think Ms. Pac-Man.
Okay,
because they had to probably change the way she looked a bit too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but apparently not the music, right? Which does kind of blur the lines here, doesn't it? Because it seems like in terms of gameplay, in terms of implied storyline, they're one and the same, right? As though Ms. Pac-Man is the dating character that he eventually has kids with, and once they have kids, she becomes Mom Pac-Man or whatever.
Or Ms. Pac-Man was the woman Pac-Man had an affair with.
Let's not even go there.
Pac-Mom is at home. Let's not go there. Well, these questions have to be raised.
Well, but here's it probably only becomes important when you start talking about the intellectual property, and are Ms. Pac-Man and Pac-Mom the same character? Again, a difference without a distinction without a difference, or however you want to say it. Are they substantially different to the extent that they're different characters and therefore royalties aren't owned to whoever they're having a conflict with? This is another one of those things where initially when I saw this article, I thought, oh, here we go again, erasing the gender thing, or the Ms. or the what, and I thought it was going to be some sort of woke thing. No, it has nothing to do with any of that crap. It's another rights issue, and it's another, probably the kind of thing where it's like, look, just pay whoever you got to pay and go ahead and do this thing, or don't do the thing at all.
I think at this point, whoever owned the royalties to Miss Pac-Man, they should have figured out a way just to sell her back to Namco. Just to sell her to Namco. Namco owns the game outright. It's very complicated. In the past, like when you bought Pac-Man Museum Plus is the latest iteration. Last gen consoles, Pac-Man Museum Plus, you could buy it. It didn't come with Miss Pac-Man, but you could buy it as DLC and then add it onto your game.
Yeah.
Same goes with they released Namco Arcade Archives. You could buy each game separately. Miss Pac-Man was separate, obviously, because you have to pay the royalties to this other company.
Sure.
So it's not like Namco has necessarily been against releasing Miss Pac-Man in any form, but I think Act Games screwed things up by releasing this game without permission. Then apparently they have now, I guess, bought the rights to the character, or at least owed the royalties on it now, and now Namco's angry, and Namco probably won't work with them again because of this. I think it's high time. I'm not sure if Namco is at fault here. I think that this is a kind of a messed up royalties things going on. I think at some point Namco needs to be able to own this character. I think that's the problem. So I'm not necessarily blaming them. I don't know how I feel about this Pac-Mom replacement character, but I don't know. Isn't it odd, though, that Miss Pac-Man is almost as iconic as Pac-Man himself, right? But now they can't use her.
I think at this point they're so closely linked, they're almost inseparable, which makes it that much harder.
Ms. Pac-Man, oddly enough, that it was created by I think a bunch of American programmers that wanted to make a better version of Pac-Man. Because there are differences in it between that and the original game. The mazes change every couple levels, whereas Pac-Man, it's the same static maze all through the levels.
True. Although with subsequent levels, not only does speed change, but the behavior of the adversaries changes too.
Yeah.
So it's not. It's almost more dangerous that it is the same map. If you assume things remain the same, that's where you get stuck, you know.
Rule: never use a Midway Man to seek foreign markets. They made a M Pac-Man. Oh, please tell me that's not a thing. I guess we'll find out. That'll be next week's article. I'm kidding, of course. Let's talk about something positive. Ghostbusters, huh?
Yeah.
Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters, good place now. You can be a Ghostbusters fan. Hold your head high and be a Ghostbusters fan again.
Full disclosure. You know? I mean, I think I am the one who probably pushes most of the Ghostbusters content on the channel, and it really is Boomer's channel. He could push back if he wanted to.
I have
but
no problem with Ghostbusters.
It does
content.
seem
I just
to
wasn't
be
aware of this. Yeah,
it just does seem to be the positive light with so much negativity, doesn't it?
I have said before, I do not want this to be a channel of negativity. It's just that some of the articles we cover are negative, and I try. Even Disney, I'll try to give them credit where credit is due. If they're trying to fix things with Johnny Depp, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers, if they're trying to fix DC, maybe start with the comics. Hint, hint.
Yeah.
You need to look over there, Zaslav. You need to know what's going on over there. Okay. Anyway, the sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife, which was first teased as part of this year's CinemaCon, then confirmed during this year's Ghostbusters Day celebration, has been officially given a release date of Wednesday, December 20th, 2023, Deadline reports. Thank you.
Yeah.
Another thing I like about this is let's not be taking forever to get sequels out.
Yep. But think about what this is pretty damn quick. People were not expecting anything before 2024, and they're already planning to have it by end of year 2023.
I'm sorry. I don't think there's any good reason for sequels to take so long to come out. And to be fair, I'll say this: Disney with the Marvel movies, would have projects and they would have a new Marvel movie or a couple every year. In the old days, James Bond movies, they started at you would get a new Bond movie every year. Then later on, when they became more elaborate, every 2 years. But that was held even through the Brosnan era. You get like one every 2 years usually, and then suddenly it's like 4 years between the Star Trek reboot and Star Trek Into Darkness, and you're wondering what were they doing for 4 years? You need to be cranking these things out.
You could argue that a lot of it has to do with the amount of special effects that need to be done. The more what do you call it? Back end type stuff that needs to be done on an effects heavy film like Star Trek, Star Wars, even the Marvel films, that adds time, right? The benefit that Marvel has had is that you could have 2, 3, 4 films being filmed at the same time because it wasn't the same cast, it was different characters.
Right.
But James Bond was not as much on the special effects necessarily, and when it did, I don't know, I think if you were to look at it, you'd find the ones that had more special effects may have taken longer. I don't know, maybe.
I don't know. The film is expected to pick up in New York, tying into Afterlife's ending, which had the Ecto-1 re-entering the city, along with a post-credit scene that saw Ernie Hudson's character, Winston Zeddemore, arriving at the firehouse. It might be interesting if he was the focal point of the next movie, because it sort of seemed like his last thing at the end. Even all my business, I always remembered I always was a Ghostbuster. That's where I started. And I wondered if that might be interesting if it's focused on him in the sequel. That might be interesting, right?
And a lot of fans have since then been saying, and I've been reading comments, honestly, as a Ghostbusters fan, I've seen it ever since, Ghostbusters 2, really. Fans have loved Winston Zeddemore.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it consciously. I internalized it on a subconscious level. I totally knew it, but people have come to see him as the character, or as the audience insert character,
the everyman. That's how I saw him when I was a kid. Yeah,
that's exactly.
He's not a scientist. He just got hired off the street. He's kind of one of us. That's how I always saw him. What
really underscored it was when I realized with the Ghostbusters, the video game, and now this role in just about all the marketing. There is this non-faced character, the Rookie, right, that you play in the video game, that if you buy, I even have it right next to me here, it's the Ghostbusters employee welcome kit. You get a patch that says Rookie, just like you would have Zedmore, you'd have Spengler or whatever on your uniform. I got a patch that says Rookie. Actually, I got 2 Rookie patches, one for me, one for Netter, because anyone is going to be a rookie, right? And every video game, you always play Rookie. And it's not always the same Rookie, because there's been, implications, you just got to be careful about this. You don't want
to be like that last guy or something.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that, and Winston was the first Rookie. He wasn't called Rookie. He didn't wear a Rookie badge, but he was Rookie, right? And we're like, I get it. Do you believe in this? Do you believe in that? Hey, if there's a steady paycheck, I believe anything. How many of us have taken jobs that way?
Of course.
I don't know thing one about chemicals, or shipping, but I know how to do data entry. I could do this thing. And the longer you're with the company, the more you're like, I like this company. And you know what? Yeah. They contribute to products that I buy and that you buy too. There
you go. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's how it works. I like that. And I did like this character moved on to other things. I guess when the thing closed down, he had his own businesses going, so that was cool too.
Which is much in keeping with what Ghostbusters was about, right? That whole working class, Rage Against the Machine kind of thing, that very 80s thing. And he brought it around at the end of Afterlife. He not only summed all that up, but he showed the extrapolation of it, right? And dude, if you want to talk about messaging, talk about, a father figure, the community he comes from, right? Showing an example. Yeah. And I know that's not the messaging that the Wokosos want, but it's a good, positive one that we need.
Point is, everybody likes Winston. Okay, yeah. We want to see more of Winston, and Ernie Hudson too. He's just he always has a calming presence on screen. I've always noticed that about him. So,
dude, have you ever met him?
No, not in person. No.
Ernie Hudson is a great guy in person. He really is. I mean, I don't want to besmirch his acting, because I'm sure he's a great actor. I've seen him in a lot of things, but I haven't seen him really pushing his range.
Right.
The character he plays of Winston Zeddemore is totally him just playing himself.
Cool.
He really is that kind of guy, Nanette and I got to hang out with him when we were doing convention doing security at a local convention, and we got some great time to just chat with him. And he's great. He really is.
Yeah. Cool.
But anyway, yeah. So yeah, we're getting Ghostbusters sequel, specifically the sequel to Afterlife, a lot sooner than we were expecting. Working title, which is not going to be the final title, I promise you, is Ghostbusters Firehouse. The reason that Firehouse is the working title is because obviously the story is going to center there again. It is the iconic firehouse in New York, and they are currently rehabbing the interiors of that building specifically for this movie, which is going to greatly benefit the neighborhood because after they're done filming there, it's going to become a community center.
Cool. I like that.
I don't know if the whole firehouse is or just, that portion that's not really.
It'd be a great tourist attraction.
It already is, actually.
Okay.
Unofficially, because I mean it's been a working firehouse for years. I don't remember the hook and ladder number. There's a lot of Ghostbusters that know it off the top of their head, but the guys that work there, yeah, they've got all kinds of memorabilia and signs. And in fact, the sign from Ghostbusters 2 that was out in front of the firehouse,
with the 2 symbol,
movie, where he's doing the peace sign or the 2, that they got to keep, and they were displaying it indoors, but somewhere along the way it got damaged, so a bunch of fans got together and raised money to replace it. So that's just a little bit of trivia about the hook and ladder, the Ghostbusters Firehouse.
Hey, it's a great story, and it'd be cool if there was a book about all this stuff. There's different Ghostbusters factoids. Yeah,
there are. I could do a little research, and we can put together a reading list for the next stream if you want.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. As mentioned, the upcoming film will continue the Spengler family story, likely confirming the return of characters Phoebe, Trevor, and Callie Spengler, played by Afterlife by McKenna Grace, Finn Wolfhard, and Carrie Coon. Okay, so
I'm forgetting the name of the actor who played Podcast.
Well, they could bring him back too.
Well, no, he and McKenna Grace have both already kind of revealed they're working on the new film through their social media. It's kind of assumed that if McKenna Grace is there, then Wolfhardt's going to be there. And I don't know if it was this article or the next one or one that I didn't send you, but Ernie Hudson had said, yeah, he's not only in the next movie, but he's got a big role in it.
I'm looking forward to it. I think that there's a lot they could do with this. More upcoming Ghostbusters sequel had its story thought of before Afterlife had finished.
The reason this is so important and how it ties directly into what we were talking about is this is exactly why it's not taking as long as people are expecting it to. I had said this and speculated it, when Ghostbusters came out. I said this movie's going to get a sequel, and they probably already have the story planned out. And then when we saw that last scene in Afterlife, we're like, well, that's clearly your stinger at the end, giving you the wink and the nod to what the sequel's going to be. And then to find out, we already had a working draft of a script before we finished Afterlife. I'm like, this is the way you do it, guys.
This week, Ghostbusters fans received a rather big surprise with Sony Pictures announcing the follow-up to Ghostbusters Afterlife would be arriving in theaters next year. Given it was only earlier this month that we were told a script was being worked on, many expected that the next chapter wouldn't arrive until most likely 2024, aligning with the franchise's 40th anniversary. Since the announcement, some have chimed in, being a bit worried that the upcoming sequel could feel rushed. After all, 5-year gap fell between the theatrical release of Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2, and roughly the same when compared to Paul Feig's reboot to Afterlife. There was also that tiny 27-year wait between 1989 to 2016 that saw countless scripts rejected, and Bill Murray, who at that time had no desire to return to the franchise, putting a stall on many potential projects. Ghostbusters Afterlife director Jason Reitman, who is co-writing the upcoming sequel once again alongside Gil Kinnan, has put some of those worries to rest, telling the Hollywood Reporter that the idea for the forthcoming film was thought of before Afterlife had even finished. We had the story before we finished Afterlife. We have been crafting this with as much care as it took to build Afterlife into a worthy sequel, adding, we're writing as quickly as we can. You know what? It really is refreshing seeing someone out there trying to sell the audience on the movie for a change.
Yeah.
Instead of yelling at the audience or other things. I mean, this is how you talk to the audience. You know, we're building something great here. You'll want to see it instead of yelling at them on Twitter when they raise up concerns about an upcoming project. You know, you're supposed to assure the audience that it will be good, not yell at them.
It's going to be very, very difficult for anyone to start any dust up over a sequel to Afterlife with as well as it went. I mean, I'm sorry, as much as the psychos out there that live in their own fantasy world want to believe, you just can't argue reality. Okay. 2016 has been put to bed. Nobody liked it. It lost money. They moved on. They overwrote it with a true sequel that pulled a profit and made a lot of money, and it made more money in marketing than it did at the theaters. So they're moving on. And the fans are fired up, and there is no one that has anything negative to say about it. And anyone that does just lives in their own psycho bubble.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to this. Also, they have another thing here. In addition to the live action feature, an animated Ghostbusters film was also in the works with directors Jennifer Kluska of Hotel Transylvania Transformania and Chris Pernowski, executive producer of Beavis and Butthead the Universe. I watched that this weekend.
Yeah, I heard it was pretty good.
It's funny. Yeah.
So
okay.
that's what I was alluding to earlier in the show, that who knows where they're going with that. I don't know if this is going to be tied directly into, Afterlife and so forth, if they're going to go with a parallel thing, if they're going to make it in some way related to the very, very popular Real Ghostbusters and Extreme Ghostbusters. Sky's the limit. Could be really good.
Yeah.
And as is usual with an animated series, you can do a lot of things with an animated series that you can't do with live action. So we'll see what they come up with.
So and the thing is, they can always release the animated movie in time for the anniversary too.
Right, that's true.
It could feature the original Ghostbusters. You get an Ivan. Not Harold Ramis sound alike, but still have Egon in it, and you could have.
Well, no, what you really want to do is you want to go and get the voice actors that did Real Ghostbusters. That's what.
No, the guy that played Peter Venkman's not alive anymore. He died.
That's true. He's not.
So I don't know what you would do. Yeah, maybe you could get the guy that played Egon on Real Ghostbusters Extreme and have him reprise the voice.
Yeah. That would be the way to go. That would be.
You could do that. Do like a CG, or maybe I assume it would be some sort of CG. They could do it like into the Spider-Verse, but with maybe based on the Real Ghostbusters universe. That'd be an idea. I didn't think about that. There's a lot you can do, and it'd be cool. Like I said, possibilities are endless for Ghostbusters. They can keep it going, and we just want to cheer on Jason Reitman. Keep up the good work, And we'll see your movies, and we'll buy the DVDs. Okay, so and the merchandise. Apparently, what was it? The Proton Pack did very well, as opposed to certain lightsabers that were being funded, trying to be funded lately. Right? Remember?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Just saying. Okay. Anyway, it's cool that we don't have to wait too long for the sequel. So keep up the good work.
Yep.
And notice how they're releasing it December 20th. That's confidence that this will be a big holiday hit.
I think that success follows success, right? And regardless of when something comes out, when you have the right formula, and if your intentions are correct, and it's profit motive. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why you do it. You'll see success.
It was funny because Sony were the first ones to not be afraid of going up against one of the Star Wars sequels. I think they released Jumanji 2: Welcome to the Jungle around the same time that Rise of Skywalker came out, the week prior or the week before, but they weren't worried about releasing it alongside it at that point. So,
yep.
So maybe it shows they're not afraid of what Disney might pull out either. So, keep it going.
Yep.
Okay. And Daniel Heron says, how many Riva lightsabers can I put you down for?
He's alluding to, and I've purposely not been talking too much about this at all. I have noticed that when the Hasbro HasLab was running the previous Star Wars HasLab for the Rancor Black Series scale, it failed to make its goal of however many. They need certain number of pledges before they're going to go forward with it, and they weren't really getting close until the very last couple days, and people started throwing bids at it or pledges or whatever you want to call it, and the number started going up, but it never quite made it. And a lot of those pledges, I had speculated at the time, were from people that worked at Hasbro trying to make sure it happened, because their jobs were on the line.
Oh, yikes.
Maybe the people that were going to be planning to sell it in the secondary market, figuring, well, I was only planning to sell a couple, but maybe I'll get a few more, and I'm just going to sell them anyway. But it never made it. It got close. It got real close at the end, but it never made it. This Riva lightsaber, in fact, I can't even remember how much it's going for, but let me check real quick. It takes me just a second to go to the HasLab page. Here it is, $500 for a Black Series Riva Force FX Elite lightsaber. They need 5,000 backers for this, and they've only got 1,300. And it's only got a week left. It's not going to make it. It's not even going to come close. And I said, first, this is kind of overpriced just for a Force FX Elite lightsaber, period. But nobody even cares about this character. Nobody does. People barely care about the show. It's going to be another failure. It's going to be another failure. I don't know. I scratched my head. Right next to it, there's a G.I. Joe HasLab that's running for a G.I. Joe Classified Series Cobra Hiss. It's like a, Cobra tank type thing. In a way, it's kind of like it's a vehicle that was originally available in the 80s for G.I. Joe.
Oh, okay, cool.
But it feels to me like it's being re-released for $300. $300 for something you could get for $20 back in the 80s.
You sure it was $20 back in the 80s? This is a big toy.
It wasn't that big. It's about as big as in scale. It's like an X-wing fighter or TIE fighter or something like that.
So that'd be like a $30 toy back in the 80s.
Okay, maybe 30, but still 300. But
it's made out of aluminum.
No, it's actually not. It's plastic, but it's they needed 8,000 backers. They're already at 12,000 with 43 days to go. It's only been up for less than a week, and it's already blown out its numbers. I'm like, well, apparently these Joe people just like to throw away their money. Same thing with the G.I. Joe Sky Striker, which is again, it's a re-release of a plane that they sold back in the 80s. It went for I don't remember how many $100, and people are buying it like crazy. It's like, okay, they just love their G.I. Joe and they want to get the nostalgic toys. Whatever. I want new stuff. I don't want stuff that I could get for, on the secondary market for a fairly reasonable price.
Yeah, I'm not the same way when they release Super Nintendo games, like they sometimes do reprintings of old NES or Super Nintendo games, and I'm like, release games that were only released in Japan and bring those out over here. Do
Yeah.
that instead. The ones I didn't get because they
Let
weren't
me
released
put
over
it to
here.
you this way: if you Google up GI Joe His Tank on Google Shopping, there's an eBay auction for one at $15.95, or you can buy it new from Amazon for $35. So I know people are going to tell me this HasLab is a little bit bigger. It's got more
Also, the certificate of authenticity.
well, it's got electronics. It's got some other stuff in it, but that's it's a 6-inch. I'm sorry, I didn't realize this is the equivalent of their Black Series, so it's a bigger scale. This is like the Rancor, okay? Something that was available for the 3 3/4, and they upsized to 6-inch. Thanks for pointing that out to me, Daniel Heron. I didn't realize.
So can you stick your 1970s GI Joe in this thing then?
This also tells me that the marketing for G.I. Joe is not one-to-one with the marketing for Star Wars. Okay. People are willing to pay a premium price for a 6-inch scale upsizing of something where for G.I. Joe, whereas with the Rancor, they weren't willing to do it for Star Wars. So maybe focus on the vintage collection Hasbro for Star Wars.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's right. It was funded in 2 hours. The nice thing about there's a lot of things I don't like about the HasLab, but the thing that I do like about it is if it funded in 2 hours, that doesn't mean it's sold out. That just means more people. It's already funded. It's a for sure thing. You still have 48 days to get your pre-order. It now basically becomes a pre-order. And the more people they get, the more tiers that they open up, which means you might get an extra doodah, or they might add a feature to the toy or something. And you already know what you're getting. And if you're willing to pay $300 for the thing as it is, you're going to get more things. Another great example, the Ghostbusters Proton Pack sold for, what was it, $450, something like that. And I was happy with it. And all the tiers opened up, and I was happy with all the stuff I was getting. Well, we just got an update that they decided to add some more stuff to it. They added a feature where not only is it compatible with the Neutrona wand that we already had, but now you'll be able to turn it on and off with the proton, with the wand in your hand, which is kind of cool. They've worked out that functionality between the electronics of the two devices. They've also improved some of the structural features of the stand that it's to be put on, and they doubled the size of Egon's notebook with more content and notes from Egon Spengler. I just thought that was kind of cool. And Netter's like, and we're getting that too. I'm like, yeah, that's just something they threw in that, for us that already backed the thing.
G.I. Joe.
But thanks so much, Soundtrack from Birdman, for letting me know that was for. That does make more sense now that it's for a 6-inch one rather than, okay.
G.I. Joe also hasn't done anything in a while, from what I can tell. They had that Snake Eyes movie that was the big hit that came out. I'm kidding, of course.
Well, and the other thing too is you double the size of the toy, but you multiply times 10 the cost for the toy. I just want to point that out too. Just whatever. But hey, if that's what they want, let them get what they want.
G.I. Joe is another Paramount property, right? That they don't know what they're doing with.
I don't know who has the license.
I think it was Paramount. I think they did Snake Eyes, and people get angry because they recast Snake Eyes as with an Asian actor, even though the whole point was he was.
I get confused with all of these who owns the rights to make a film for for a franchise that's technically owned by a toy.
Probably what happens is they have the rights for so many years that they don't use them, that maybe it reverts back to whoever owns. I don't know.
Probably, yeah.
Because it was a
Well,
comic book
good,
series
revert 'em.
too that was fairly big as well, and of course the animated series, and they did a movie back in the 80s. They should
Did
do a
you
new
know that I'm in
animated
one of those
series.
comics?
You are?
Yep. So
Oh yeah, you mentioned that to me. I think. Yeah,
so
go ahead.
I'll be real quick. Yeah, back in the, I think it was the 90s. When was Hurricane Katrina?
I think it was in the 90s. I think
It was in the 90s. It was
Yeah,
after
it was the
that. There
90s.
was a lot of funding going around from FEMA, and a buddy of mine who's a fireman hit up FEMA with an idea that he had for a one-shot GI Joe comic that would be funded by FEMA, pushing like fire safety.
Good idea.
Yeah, and he was smart because he combined his understanding of FEMA and the firefighting community, and toys and GI Joe. So he went to Joe Con, he went to other comic conventions where the comic book guys were, did the networking, made the pitch, did everything he needed. There's a whole story to be done there. In fact, I'm planning to do a sit down interview with him to get that whole story, but he finally got them to, okay, we'll approve it. And he says, but I'd like to be a consultant on it because fire safety, right? If you're going to do something on fire safety, and he said that there was things that they actually had to change in the storyline, where he's like, it's fine that you do that, but we need to be realistic. And if we don't ever want someone charging into a fire, like Snake Eyes, doing that. So what we need to show is that even Snake Eyes is in danger when he does that. So if you're going to do that scene, then in the next scene, somewhere in the background, I want to see somebody putting an oxygen mask on him and bandaging a wound. Right. We're like, okay, we can do that. I mean, stuff like that. Well, a lot of the characters within the comics were named for people that, worked at his firehouse, people that he knew, people that helped with this and all. And in the back of the comic, the such as the writers and whatnot want to thank the following people for their contribution, and Nanette and I show up on the thank you page. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I'm in a GI Joe comic.
That is cool. It's always good to have your name in print, right?
Yeah, I think so.
What you got coming up this week?
Let's see. So what is it? Well, so tomorrow, speaking of, doing some videos, I do have some video ideas that I'm planning to get out, or at least start working on tomorrow, since I have the day to do it. I'm also going to try to get out with Netter to see that Minions movie. I want to see it really do well, so we can shove it in Disney's face.
Plus, it's probably just a good movie.
Well, yeah, no, and I know, I mean, and that's why I'm taking her to see.
It's got the voice cast. It's got a good voice cast. I know Steve Carell's reprising.
And that's why I'm taking Netter to see that rather than Maverick, which is the one I'd probably prefer to see. But I would enjoy either. Is this week Tuesday? There's nothing going on Mr.
No, Mr. Matzik this week. But we are.
I know there's some rescheduling going on, so we've got some other stuff coming up on Mr. Matchstick. By all means, follow his channel. We'll be doing Culture Fortress in the next couple weeks. We've got a review of season 2 of Gravity Falls. So that's where we'll be in a couple weeks, but just not this week. Wednesday over on Daniel Herron's channel, Soundtracks with Birdman.
We're going to be doing a movie. I'm not sure if Daniel decided what it's going to be. I know we were talking about doing Mission Impossible at some point, so it might be that. If you're in the chat, you can go and let me know. But I'm trying to think. And then Friday, your channel. You're going to have
Friday, I will be doing another, like the last stream. I'll be interviewing another guest YouTuber. I'm not going to say who it is because it's up in the air which YouTuber I'll be interviewing. It'll be a surprise to you. But I've got that planned. That's what the stream's going to be. And then Saturday, we're back over on Netter's Network for Retro Cinema. We're going to finish our celebration of the 40th anniversary of Blade Runner with its sequel, Blade Runner 2049.
Yes, and I will be joining you for that.
You will be joining me, and I believe that Stephen Otten's Deleted Scenes will also be coming back, assuming he's available and nothing comes up, which these things happen. I certainly understand.
Cool.
But yeah, it should be the same panel as last week. And yeah, then that brings us around to next Sunday's Geeky Geezers, which we can't foretell the future on that one, guys. We'll see what happens in the next week, and that's what we'll be talking about.
Well, actually, one thing I might try and check on Thor's box office. That might be something, because that might be a late breaking story, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's something to look forward to, I guess. All right. That's all I got.
All right. Y'all have a good night. Have a happy 4th of July. Celebrate Independence Day.
Yep.
You know, and if you don't have any plans, go see a movie then. If you don't have any plans with anybody, you can go see. Yep. There's some good stuff out there. Like I said, the top 5. Yeah. All right. Catch you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.